Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
What's up, everybody? Welcome, one and all, a pleasant good evening to you, dissidents. Welcome to the DueDissidence podcast. My name's Keaton Weiss, here as always with Russell Dobular.
Hello.
A pleasant good evening to you all, 221 strong to start the evening. That's what we like to see. Please hit that like button as a way to send the smoke signal up into the YouTube algorithm air to get some more people in here. I know it's a holiday weekend. And so thank you guys for coming inside to be with us tonight. Maybe some of you guys are sitting out by a pool or on a beach. Hope the Wi-Fi is good on the cell phone or the tablet or whatever you got out there. But I know it's a lovely, lovely Memorial Day weekend here in the Northeast. Beautiful weather today. Sunny, bright sunny, not a cloud in the sky. 80 degrees. The city must be hopping if I know holiday weekends.
Oh, yeah. Right across the street is St. Nicholas Park. It is hopping. Good thing I have a good mic. You can't hear that, right?
No, I can't. You probably got music playing.
There's a lot going on.
Good time. A lot going on. But Russell and I are inside.
I just remembered I can't sip it.
Oh, that's right. You got to wait. To try that coffee.
Russell's
Boycott Starbucks sweepstakes continue this evening. We're very excited to try a new coffee of Russell's. And so we are getting close to determining a winner, I would say, on that.
We're almost done. We're almost at the end of things that I could get. You know, people are offering like, hey, do you have a P.O. box? Okay, but what are you going to keep sending it to me? What are you, my fucking dealer? Like, how's that going to work? Even if I like it, how am I going to get it?
As a one-time gesture would be nice. How easy is it to set up a P.O. box?
My experience with it is they're hard to get because they tend to all be rented if you live in a densely populated place like New York.
Right. I would imagine.
Like when I have tried to set that up, they don't have one available. You have to go on like a waiting list.
Right. Exactly. And you definitely want to do P.O. box. Not that it's not very kind of people to offer to ship him things, but, you know, it is possible that, you know, serial killers pose as, you know, benevolence, coffee gifters and things
purveyors
like
of coffee.
Purveyors of fine coffee. Exactly.
Well, that was how Ted Bundy would get close.
Right, exactly. Gotta watch out.
Like that guy Jeremy at the Quartering. He sells coffee, and sometimes he shows up at your house.
Gotta watch out for that. Well, we have a very full show planned for you guys tonight. It is a holiday weekend, but the world does not stop. The news does not stop. So we are going to get into things. We have some headlines to get to, some great main segments. One segment that we're not covering tonight that we will almost certainly, I think, cover on Thursday is the controversy surrounding the Roger Waters garb at the concert that he's in hot water for. We didn't cover that.
Yeah, I can't believe we didn't do that now that you just brought it up. You're lucky you didn't bring it up because we would have been doing it.
Well, there's just so much to it. Like, there's so much else coming out about it. I feel like we just kind of let that cycle through a few days because, like, RFK just chimed in, you know, and then defended Roger Waters and then somewhat walked it back. So, like, there's a lot of parts to that I would like to cover. So that's why I didn't want to do it before it runs its course, because I feel like that's a very comprehensive piece we could do on that.
Okay. As a lifelong fan, to attack him for what has been a part of the show since the Wall album was dropped. I mean, the idea of him going up and playing this fascist character, it's core to the whole mythology of that album. He's literally been, right, and it's a commentary on fascism.
Of course.
It's unbelievably fucking stupid. It was like the way they went after Jeremy Corbyn as an anti-Semite, right? Because it doesn't really matter if it's true. It just matters if you could sell the idea to your brain dead people, and you'd have to be brain dead to have so little the crossed hammers, like this whole thing that he developed with Gerald Scarfe of this kind of surrealist fascism. Like the whole thing, his father died in World War II fighting the Nazis.
Fighting Nazis, yeah.
Like what the fuck are you talking about? Like his entire career, he's been speaking out against fascism.
I mean, it's easy to get branded, a Nazi when you criticize Israel, which is a tie into our first segment. Like I said, we are going to cover the Roger Waters piece because there's a lot of things we want to tie into that, so we will do that. But in the meantime, let's start out here, the program, with our first headline of the night here from the Washington Post. Israeli agents conducted raid against militants in civilian area, killing a child. This is a March 16th raid in Jenin, show increasingly deadly tactics by Israeli officers. We'll start it right here. A father pushed a stroller past a silver sedan. Inside the car, Israeli undercover agents were in place waiting to carry out an operation against two Palestinian militants who were walking nearby. Omar Awadin, age 14, pedaled by on his bicycle, having just completed his errand of the day. Moments later, four plainclothes security forces burst from a second silver sedan nearby in pursuit of the militants and opened fire. Such scenes are increasingly common in the West Bank, where more than 3 million Palestinians live under Israeli military occupation, and a new generation of militants has risen to prominence. Israel says raids like this one are vital to disrupting terrorist networks and protecting its citizens from attack. Palestinian officials, say they are war crimes, that should be referred to the International Criminal Court. Israeli military operations have long been a fixture of life here, but they once happened mostly at night and usually ended in apprehensions. This year, under the most right-wing government in Israeli history, a growing number of incursions have been carrying out during the day in densely packed urban areas such as Jenin. As of May 15th, 108 Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, including militants and civilians, had been killed by Israeli forces, according to the UN. More than double last year's toll from the same period. At least 19 were children, including Omar, who was fatally shot during this raid. So they analyzed the footage from 15 videos, including 16, including CCTV, hidden sort of camera documentation. Sorry, that just did that show up on your end? It froze on me for a second there, but now it's back. Okay, so it showed 16 hidden camera footage. 15 videos from all of those different points of view, and the analysis yielded 3 findings. Sorry, 1 second. I apologize, folks. This might not be visible on your end. I'm just refreshing the page.
It's visible. It's totally
It conked out on me for a second. I figured it wasn't affecting the stream, but now we should be back. Israeli forces killed Omar. Israeli authorities have not publicly commented on his death. Omar was among at least 16 civilians in the area as the officers charged down the street with AR-style rifles and a handgun, firing more than 20 shots and killing the 2 militants, neither of whom was visibly armed. Israeli authorities referred to the militants as armed suspects in an initial statement, but provided no evidence to support their claims. So I want to just show a graphic representation. Obviously, they analyze video, some of which they released. We're not really allowed to show video of people being, shot and hurt in that way on YouTube, nor would we want to. But they did release a sort of graphic representation of the way things went down here, and you can see it right here. You can see these are the forces, these are the militants here, and then this is Omar here in the blue. So as you can see, just doing a sort of an open raid in public against unarmed, quote unquote, militants, with obviously just reckless disregard for any civilians who may be in their path. And, this is just part and parcel of what we see all the time. This is what we talk about. We just talk about, a really a state where, these people are just not, they are not considered human beings. They're not treated as human beings. There's no care taken for the life of this 14-year-old boy who just dropped off a package at his father's store before he was killed. And, you talk about dystopian states, right? You talk about dystopias where someone who is considered a militant is now fair game to gun down in broad daylight. And what? They lie. They say, well, he was armed. There's no evidence he was armed.
Right.
They don't have to prove it. Who's going to hold them? Who is going to hold them responsible for this? You have guys like Roger Waters who point out that this is wrong, and they say, what? Well, you're an anti-Semite. Jeremy Corbyn speaks out against this. You're an anti-Semite. As a Jewish guy, I could tell you there's little more anti-Semitic than calling people who criticize this anti-Semites, because that makes it sound like, as a Jew myself, I support this, which obviously I don't.
Yeah, there's a big divide among Jews that, people might not be aware of. I would say, I don't want to say most, but at least half of American Jews have serious issues with Israel. I mean, the dividing line is whether they think it has a right to exist. I would say the division is there. You do get your old school Jews, though, who swallow the party line. And an article like this is anti-Semitic. You can't say anything about Israel that's not anti-Semitic. And I've gone at those people arguing, don't you think it's one of the great tragedies of history that the Jews responded to living in a racist apartheid state by creating one? Like it's the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's clear why they did it, but now here we are. You can't, being aware of the history of the Jews, not see the parallels to the way you're treating the Arabs and the Palestinians. I mean, I've had, and I'm sure you've had this experience too. You as a Jew, you will have Jews like that will come up and say things to you they would not say to outsiders. It's there. I remember when I was a kid, I had Israelis tell me I should come to Israel. Everyone's going to like me because I'm Jewish, and the Arabs are animals. They don't say that on the news when they're talking about anti-Semitism. But I can tell you, if you're Jewish, it's not all Jews. It's not even most Jews, but there is definitely a substantial number that will talk that way about the Arabs. And, I mean, you create this state that can only exist on racist premises. And how do you not end up a racist? Your whole state is premised on racism.
Yeah. I mean, here's something we can show, and then I think we probably should show here. This is embedded in the article here. Omar spent the day of March 16th delivering packages for his father's medical supply shop. At about 3:10 p.m., he dropped off his last package at a nearby pharmacy. CCTV footage obtained by the Post shows. So there he is, 14-year-old kid, just going about his business. That was the last thing that he did. Just absolutely horrible, absolutely unthinkable. And so one of the reasons why I felt okay about waiting on the Roger Waters segment is because this ties into it a little bit. I don't for the life of me understand. Well, I shouldn't say I don't understand it. People are very, very tribal, and a lot of Jews feel very protective of their place in the world, as is their right. But once again, I'm half Jewish. My father is Jewish. My father's parents were obviously both Jews. I'm only half, but you know, I know a lot of people in my family who are pro-Israel, but even they, like, look, there's a reason this gets printed in the Washington Post. The Washington Post is far from an anti-Israeli outlet, right? There are certain truths that you just can't sweep under the rug. There are certain things that you just can't hide and certain things that you just can't deny outright and maintain any sort of credibility at all, which is why even outlets like the Washington Post, especially now that, as they say, the Israeli government is becoming even more draconian and more right-wing than ever, you're starting to see some outlets at least pay this some mind.
I will say over the course of my life, the public conversation has changed quite a lot. You know, when I was a child, when I was a teenager, the thing, and this is probably why they're getting increasingly hysterical, the thing they pull where if you say anything against Israel, you were an anti-Semite, that was really much more effective back then. Like anyone who spoke out against Israel, that was just the narrative. I mean, you didn't even get to a debate. Like the idea that the Palestinians had a point.
Right.
The Palestinians were portrayed in the American media when I was growing up like Cobra and G.I. Joe. Like that was like the idea that they had any kind of moral justification. No, it was just this nebulous evil that was against the good Jewish people and the incredible warriors of Israel who had fought off the 7 Arab nations who tried to destroy them. Like it was all that, you know. I mean, they'd have TV movies celebrating Golda Meir. Like there was absolutely no other side presented. And if you tried to present another side, like it was absolutely verboten. It was there was no space to even talk about it. So we've come a long way where you would have an article like that in the Washington Post, because it's just, you know, where there was a lot of goodwill and a lot of guilt for, you know, good reason around World War II and what had happened in World War II. The Holocaust was very, very much a part of the public awareness. And for a very long time, nobody was willing to ask any questions about the internal affairs of Israel because of it. And now that time has passed, I think.
Yeah. And, you know, this is part of the reason why I think, I mean, I won't speak for you, but this is part of the reason why I feel when a thing like this happens, it's important for us to cover it, because as two Jews ourselves, it's not a card they can play on us. Well, you're just anti-Semitic.
I mean, they can.
I think Jews should you know, speak out on this when they can, if they feel the way we do. And yeah, they'll try. Yeah, they'll do the thing. You've internalized.
They tried it with Bernie.
Yeah, they tried it with Bernie. Right. He's internalized anti-Semitic.
You're a self-hating Jew.
Right. The self-hating. Right. Yeah, that's the line they go to a lot. All right. So
the Roger Waters thing, I honestly haven't been following closely. Like it was in my ear.
Right.
But from what you're telling me, it's blown up into a thing. Like it was so obviously stupid when I saw it. The idea that you would talk about that character that he does as anti-Semitism is so transparently just manipulating a false narrative of anti-Semitism that I honestly didn't pay it much mind because it was so fucking ridiculous.
Right. It would be like calling the Springtime for Hitler number in, you know, the Bill Brooks show anti-Semitic. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, everybody. So you thought you might like to go to the show. Come on, we all know it.
We all know it. We all know it. All right, let's do Russell's coffee tasting bit before it gets cold. While he does that, let me just take a few super chats. Hobbs45, thanks for the $11. Guys, this next election is really important. Oh, is that right? Oh, thank you. I almost forgot that. MTV says it may be the most important election of our lifetime. Oh, thank you for reminding us of that.
This is the one.
We should be talking about that all night. We don't have much election material on the docket for tonight. Very irresponsible of us. Long story short, you guys familiar with YouTuber Corey Gill Schuster? I am not. Should I be? If I should be, I'll look into it. Thanks.
You talking shit about us?
Very
Like,
paranoid tonight.
I'll know
What's he
we
saying about
made
us?
it when someone actually takes the time to make a video about us.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
No, nobody's done a takedown video. of us
Nobody's
yet.
tried to take us down yet.
No, we're not
Donald
big
grabbing
enough
by
yet.
the pussy Trump. Thanks for the $2. Look into the anti-BDS laws DeSantis signed in Florida. Well, actually, our next headline has to do with Ron DeSantis. So we'll be talking about him a little bit, not about that, but that's coming up. But right now, we're going to put our patron scroll up to give our Patreon members the shout out they deserve. You can support this program by going to patreon.com/DueDissidence and supporting the show. You can go to DueDissidence.substack.com and sign up as a subscriber there, or you can click that join button right under the screen. It's right next to the subscribe button. You can join us here on YouTube. There are certain perks associated with that as well. It all helps us keep afloat and keep doing as many streams as we can. We have 522 people in here. Can some of you guys who are not subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button? And if you have not hit the like button, please do that as well. While this scroll is going on, our Russell Dobular boycott Starbucks dissident sweepstakes continues. Do you want to tell us what coffee you're going to be having tonight?
First, I'm just going to say Ron is the governor of Florida. Okay, Florida. He doesn't really have very much choice. You do not blow out Miami-Dade County without sucking a little dreidel. So he's deep throating that Gimmel. Come on, Gimmel. All right, so this is one of the cheaper coffees that was recommended. This is because we're down to that now.
Pilon.
Cafe Pilon. All right, so that wasn't cheap. Honestly, Bustelo, if you want to like just have a good working class man's coffee, that shit's on sale for like $3.99 at my supermarket right now.
Oh wow! All right, nice.
All right, so let's see. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. If you want this, Bustelo is a better version of this. Bustelo is like a smoother version of this.
So I'm sorry.
It's similar.
So this is cheaper than Bustelo or more expensive?
No, actually, it's more expensive than Bustelo. You can't go by that. The most expensive coffee I've bought in this challenge, I'm sorry, Frank, was that fucking Javalia rat poison. It was like fucking rat poison. That was like the worst shit I ever drank in my life.
I'm really surprised you hated on the Javalia that much. Maybe you had a bad batch. I haven't had it in a long time.
It is entirely possible, but I'm telling you, it is so bad that I did not continue to drink it. Not even to finish it off on general principles because it was the most expensive one I bought, which is not to say expensive as fine coffee goes. It was expensive for that fucking coffee.
Right. All right. Makes sense. So all right. So San Francisco Bay, the first one we tried, still on top. Tough to dethrone San Francisco Bay. Axel, thanks for the $5. Good vibes to y'all. Well, good vibes to you, Axel, and thank you, Axel, for signing up to become a YouTube member. We appreciate that very, very much. Thank you very much for that. We appreciate it very much. As like I said, all of this helps tremendously. Bennett Weiss, my dad. I'm a self-ambivalent Jew. See, that's where I get it from. That's where I get it from. That's where all that insecurity comes from, I guess. Meteor Dreams. Thank you, Meteor Dreams. Have you seen Misha Pollan's Own Nothing, Be Happy? Is that a new one? I saw Jimmy Dore came out with an Own Nothing, Be Happy one. Is that like a new version? Because I know the World Economic Forum put out that video, like I think it was way back in 2018. They had a video where you'll own nothing and you'll eat bugs and you'll be happy. Yeah. I didn't know they did a sequel to that. No, I haven't looked into that. Maybe I should. But I did see Jimmy put up a video with that in the sort of thumbnail. But I wasn't aware that there was something new on that front. So we will look into it. But thank you very much, Meteor Dreams. So our patron scroll continues here. Like I said, our Patreon members, our paid Substack subscribers, and our YouTube supporters, you guys are the backbone of the show. You really make what we do possible here. We are looking to add a third stream over the summertime. It is getting to the point where we feel that is necessary and that could be supported. And so we will try and implement that. Probably late June, early July would be my guess is when we'll be able to start scheduling those in. But the more people we get signed up, the sooner and more regularly we can commit to that. So thank you very much to our patrons, our Substackers, and our YouTube members. All right, let's get into our second headline of the night here. This is from NBC News. Ron DeSantis signs Florida bill limiting the liabilities of private spaceflight companies. DeSantis signed the bill a day after he launched his campaign for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination in an event with Twitter's owner Elon Musk, who, of course, is also the CEO of SpaceX. So a little bit of, you scratch my back, I scratch yours here kind of thing going. The Spaceflight Entity Liability Bill, or CSSB 1318, that sounds like the name of Elon's third-born child there. That's what he'll probably name his SB 1318, was one of 27 bills he signed a day after launching his campaign for the Republican nomination during an event with its owner, Elon, like I said, CEO of SpaceX. The new law effectively shields SpaceX and other commercial space companies from lawsuits in the event that anyone on their rockets or capsules are seriously hurt or killed. The bill now requires crew members and passengers to acknowledge the risks of spaceflight by signing a waiver that contains the following statement: warning. Under Florida law, there is no liability for an injury to or death of a participant or crew in a spaceflight activity provided by a spaceflight entity if such injury or death results from the spaceflight activity. Now, this, of course, reeks of corruption, and there's no doubt it is corrupt, but it is not uniquely corrupt in the case of Meatball Ron, because this bill passed unanimously in the Florida State Senate, which is lopsided in the GOP's favor, 28 Republicans, 12 Democrats. But like I said, there was not a single
but in the House,
dissenting
they
vote.
Lost like 5 votes, right?
Yeah, they lost a few
like
in the House.
It
wasn't unanimous in the
against
House, but it was unanimous in the state Senate. So obviously overwhelming bipartisan support. The space industry is about an $11.4 billion industry for Florida. So, they have both parties by the balls down there. And so in that sense, this is not a scandal unique to DeSantis. Of course, DeSantis did choose to launch his presidential campaign, or at least try to, the day before or 2 days before signing this bill, which is not a terrifically good look. And really what this speaks to, as Russell will outline here, is just the corruption of the whole system, sort of broadly speaking.
Well, that's it. It's the system is so corrupt. He didn't even wait a week. Like,
right.
why would you do that? That's almost
Exactly.
Is that performance art? Does Ron have more of a appreciation of the surreal than we would have expected? As this is signing the Mona Lisa, like she has a hot ass. Like, what is he doing here? It's a little Dadaist to just go and sign this the next day. Yeah, this is where you got to say, what democracy are we saving exactly? Because when you look at the full article, I'm not sure. I think we looked at 2 different ones. The one I looked at broke down how much money these space companies have donated. So like Jeff Bezos is lagging. I think he only gave like 50 million or something.
Yeah, because he has his own. I forget what it's called.
He has Blue Origin.
Blue Origin, that's it.
His is Blue Origin. And then you got Branson over there, Obama's windsurfing buddy. So it just reminds me really of the way the Roman Senate ran. Like, what's the difference? You went to the senator. That's why you wanted to be a senator. That's why you wanted to be a governor, right? Because of the bribes. That was the way business was done. It was just understood. You become a senator, you take bribes. How is this different? How is this different? Like, it's right out in the open, just like it would have been in the ancient world. You pay and they pass legislation for you. So when you come to me and you say, we have to save democracy, what on earth? You got a mouse in your pocket? What are you talking about, motherfucker?
Right,
what democracy exactly are we saving? That ship sailed. When it sailed is up for debate. Whether it ever actually made it into the dock is something we could debate, but certainly what we have here bears no resemblance to anything that could reasonably just be described as a democracy. It's a kleptocracy. It's a corporatocracy. It's an oligarchy. It's not a democracy. So when you're gonna, probably not our own people too much, but pretty soon you're going to start to get you got to stop Trump. You got to stop Trump. You got to stop Trump. The last 4 years, would we have been worse off under Donald Trump? I would argue we'd probably have been better off under Donald Trump. I think he's right. I don't think the Ukraine war ever would have happened. And that alone, we would not be living under the shadow of World War III. So what are you talking about when you tell me this is an existential threat we have to stop? It's not that I like the other team. That's why I'm not actually planning on voting for them. But the idea, and you will get it from even some of the people in this space. Well, no, but we can't let that. Why can't we? Why?
Yeah, no, look, when you have the system as corrupted as it is now and as broken as it is now, where you say, yes, companies, now this is one particular industry bribing a particular state government where it operates.
It's like that through the entire system.
You can blow that up. You can shine a light on X issue and find the same basic problem on any scale, right? When the system becomes that corrupted, this is, we know this. It feels kind of crazy to even say this at this point, but this is how fascism comes to be. Fascism comes to be when democracy becomes meaningless. So if you don't have a functioning democracy, it's not that people wake up one day and decide, hey, I want to be governed by fascist overlords. No, it's that democracy becomes such a mockery of itself that people do not invest in maintaining it anymore, right? And in this case, when it becomes so rapacious, where you have people like Nancy Pelosi parlaying their career as Democratic Party leader to $150 million net worth through insider trading, yep. And you have Howard Dean leave office and then go lobby for the pharmaceutical companies, this makes a conscious argument for fascism more sellable, because the fascists can then say, hey, listen, we have to clean house.
Well, that's how it always works.
Or one other way of putting that is, as Trump puts it, drain the swamp.
Right?
They come in and say, listen, you have to empower us to crack down on these people because they're out of control, and they are out of control, right? So you make the fascist arguments easier to make. Right? You don't have to worry about a descent into fascism or a, frog in the, pot of boiling water. You make it easier for people to come in and say, listen, what you have now is clearly bullshit. It's clearly serving no one but the people at the top and on the inside of our systems.
Right.
So don't we need to clean house? In order to clean house, don't you need a president and an attorney general who are willing to kick in some doors and drag some people out of their homes and lock them in fucking prison? What I'm describing is fascism, but what I am describing seems necessary when the system gets so out of control, corrupt as it is now.
I'm not going to guarantee that this screen share is true because it is a tweet.
I can tell you were working on something. That's why I was filibustering.
That's
why I kept going, because I'm like,
I have no reason to believe this is not true. I'm actually going to look into this. This might be a good story. So according to this, Johnson & Johnson created a shell company in Texas, told all the liability for their carcinogenic baby powder, then filed for bankruptcy with the shell company. This is legal because corporations write our laws. 38,000 women will go without a settlement. I have no cause to doubt that. I remember when it came out. I don't know about you, man. My mother used to use that baby powder on me. I mean, knock on wood. So far, so good. But
my mom we didn't use that baby powder. I used Johnson & Johnson shampoo because apparently it didn't burn your eyes when it got in. That's why she used it on me.
Yeah. Well, everybody used that on their kids. No. It turns out that shit was carcinogenic, that everybody was rubbing on their kids, rubbing them down with the baby powder. And I believe that story because I haven't heard about that lawsuit in a long time. And if everybody who used Johnson baby powder on their kids were in line for a settlement, it would bankrupt Johnson & Johnson. So, yeah, I believe that story.
Look, when it comes to this particular story, like, it's one thing to shield the space industry from liability when its rockets explode and kill people. It's another thing to shield Elon Musk from such liability. With the guy with the tunnels launching, and like every day he wakes up with another fucking batshit crazy idea. Like, this is clearly not a guy who's
sending people to Mars.
Right. He's not a guy who's very deterred by risk.
Did
right?
you
to
see
shield
that
him from liability is kind of like handing a loaded gun to a lunatic and saying, "Oh, hope you don't hurt somebody with it, but we'll grant you legal, we'll grant you some sort of immunity if you do." Like, he clearly has a reckless streak in him. He reminds me of remember the scene in The Aviator where what was that? Was about Howard Hughes, right? Yeah. He's making a film
where he takes up the yeah. A lot of people died on that movie.
He's making a film where he's got these pilots flying around, and the scene is so well done because as casually as he processes it, there's a crash, and some of the pilots die, and he keeps the cameras rolling. That's like Elon Musk could be that guy, right?
Yeah, I think that was Hell's Angels.
Seems like right, exactly. Seems like a few people died. Okay, that's a shame. And back then Hollywood was very unregulated, right? It was the Wild West. I mean, that goes back to the, obviously the silent era. So that's the kind of personality type that Elon Musk seems to be. So it seems like especially irresponsible to protect his companies from any sort of liability. Next crazy idea he gets someone killed. But the interesting thing about this, I just want to put this up on the screen because obviously Meatball Ron is getting it from both sides. I actually tweeted this out. Like, when his campaign launch sort of sputtered, it was this great unifying moment where for the first time in so many years, the shit libs and the MAGA chuds were sort of sharing a common moment where they got to, troll Meatball Ron. And so obviously NBC is a more left of center outlet. And then there were a couple of real, lefty or lib outlets. Rolling Stone jumped on this. New Republic jumped on this. But you even have, a right wing outlet here, like the Washington Examiner, jumping on this. Florida passes bill benefiting Elon Musk day after DeSantis announcement on Twitter, because the Washington Examiner is a right-wing outlet. They're obviously a pro-Trump outlet, so they are willing to get their digs in on this as well. So he's getting it from all sides here as he launches the campaign.
That's what's strange about it to me. I don't understand. Why would you not just wait a month?
Right.
Or do it before.
Yeah.
I mean, that still doesn't look good, but I mean, do it after. You already got the benefit, right? I mean, do it later.
Right.
It doesn't look good either way.
Or veto it and then say, hey, we need a different version of this. So just kick the can down the road a few weeks, make it look like you put up some sort of fight, that you weren't just, it wasn't just a you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. To do it the next day, that's kind of remarkable. That's why I keep saying Trump's going to be the next president.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've been saying it. I've been saying it
the whole time.
Been saying it the whole time. No one listens to me. All right.
The Ron DeSantis prediction is going to be my Star Wars holiday special. This is kind of infamous. Some people will get this. Keaton won't. So before you had the internet, that Star Wars holiday special was so bad. It was so infamously bad that they literally denied that it ever happened. They literally tried to do a Jedi mind trick on the entire public. So everybody brought up the holiday special. What holiday special?
Right.
What are you talking about?
His memory was never. That.
Yeah. But now it's on YouTube, and I would recommend that people watch it because it's glorious.
All right. Well, 678 strong here. Just dropped down to 663. Where'd you go? Where'd your 15 people go? Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Please stick around. Erin Costello.
We just hit the magic number.
Oh, there you go.
Is it going to stay on long enough? Is it going to stay there?
What do you mean, is it going to stay there? Oh, because you're looking for that?
All right.
It went up. Almost. I will do it anyway. Went up to 672.
I hit it right as it went to 6.
You hit it right as it went. Well, let's get more people.
At that
in
point,
here.
I was committed.
673. Like, share. Let's get everybody in here. Thank you very much. Erin Costello, thanks for the $5. Yes, just saw it earlier. Very funny.
What? The Star Wars holiday special?
No. When did that come in?
Earlier?
That came in at 733. So maybe that was when we just introduced the segment. Maybe that was it. Or maybe the producers. We did make a producers reference. Did you see the producers earlier? That's a funny movie, funny show. Jonathan Carlisle, thanks for becoming a member. Thank you very much. I feel like we should do the singing bowl for each new member. We should probably start
We
that.
should do the singing bowl.
Why not? It's a membership, you know? Singing bowl for Jonathan Carlisle. Salute to you, my friend. Britsman, happy Buddha's birthday here in Korea. DueDissidence is the perfect start to my week while I bike to work. Love the show. Hilarious and smart. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you from Korea.
Thank you.
Wow, that's great. We've never had a fan from Korea. Thank you so much. Not that we know.
First-
not that
first
let us
of many.
know. First of many. First of many. Fuck that, Bill.
I'm
says
gonna
Zach
I'm
Boyles.
gonna I'm gonna be going there with Yeonmi Park.
Yeah. Florida has no jurisdiction in space. I looked into that Yeonmi Park a little bit because people are, you stirred up a little controversy suggesting we might invite her on. And so I looked into it a little bit. And wow, that is, as George Bush said at Donald Trump's inauguration, that's some weird shit.
All right, he
turns to Hillary after Donald Trump gives his speech at the inauguration. He says, man, that was some weird shit. That's the way I feel about Yeonmi Park. That's some weird shit.
This was funny. So she what's her name? Brown Bunny blowjob girl, Chloe Sevigny. Chloe Sevigny, when she just did her closet sale in Soho. So I looked it up on Twitter because I was kind of curious about this. It came up on my radar for some reason. And somebody did a meme of Yeonmi Park saying, in North Korea, there is no Chloe Sevigny closet sale, only Lena Dunham. No. The reason she got on my radar is because she went to Colombia, and I saw her in all these videos talking about how they would like attack her for liking the Bronte sisters and stuff. So her stuff with North Korea, I'm actually reading now.
Okay,
like she got on my radar specifically because of her criticisms of Colombia.
All right, yeah, because people, I know she elicited a lot of strong responses. She's eliciting some strong responses in the chat right now, and I had never heard of her. And so I watched a couple of clips in her of, that is some far out shit.
I mean, you know me, man. I'll go toe to toe with anybody. I honestly don't know. Like, I can't really debate what I don't know. I liked what she had to say about Colombia. I thought that was interesting. Her stuff on North Korea, I don't know as much about. What was weird though? Like, what did you run down?
Just her whole presence, her whole presentation just seems very forced and weird. She seems like a blow-up doll with a Siri stuck up her pussy. That was my impression of Yeonmi Park when I saw her. Maybe we can interview one of them. Well, like a sex toy with some sort of Chat GPT, audio feature installed in it. That's what she kind of seems.
That's like half the storefront windows in Amsterdam you just described.
Yeah, right, exactly. That joke's gonna go over in the chat. I'm waiting for the 20-second delay to come in. We're talking 20 seconds ahead of when you can hear us, folks. Zach Boyles, $4.99. RFK.
That's why we got accused of being like HVAC workers.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
We're like HVAC workers.
Thank God we got the. Thank God Zach is here. Thank God we.
Thank God.
We'll schedule the show around you RFK stands because you guys are very generous with your donations. Thank you, Zach. RFK is the closest thing to cleaning house we will ever see. That's an interesting point. It's an interesting point. But you are too busy having a cry yank. Cry yank. I like that phrase. Cry yank. That sounds British.
Did you get that from Yeonmi Park?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, that sounds like a British phrase. Cry yank. We're having a cry yank.
We're having a bit of a cry yank.
Yeah, about him launching them post-ish duopoly. Look,
cry yanks here. You get out in the yard.
You make a fair point. I mean, I made that point on RBN on the post-duopoly show that he is sort of the left. He's running on sort of the left version of the Steve Bannon dismantle the administrative state platform, the more pro-government version of that, which is not dismantle it and leave nothing, but sort of pick apart the institutions and sort of piece them back together in a way that serves people better. So I buy that argument. But he's not going to get a chance to do that as long as his constituents that he is appealing to are the cowbell and bullhorn brigade. Egg
Look,
64.
we've been saying it for 3 weeks. RFK Jr. is going to be the next president.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. We've been saying it forever. Yay,
we've been saying forever he's going to come out on top.
I could have used a little more cowbell.
Yeah. Yay, dissidents. Keep telling the truth. Thank you, Egg 64. Appreciate it. Declaring independence. This is Jose Vega, our friend Jose. We're going to be covering a little Jose later in the show. If I run for Congress, will it be a conflict of interest, or can I count on you to shamelessly shill for me? No, we'll always shill for you, Jose.
Just don't get married.
Yeah, we'll blow up our credibility for Jose.
For you, we'll do it.
You're worth it. You're worth
We'll
it.
do it.
But Jose will not run as a Democrat. That's the difference. Jose will run on the LaRouche platform, the LaRouche party ticket.
So at that point, we're not compromising ourselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Who will you run for Congress against? Nadler? Nadler is still there. Nadler's not your district. Your district is the Alejandro Espaillat, right? That's
he's in my district.
Yeah, your same district.
So I'll be perfect. I'll be your campaign manager.
Oh, we'll do the whole LaRouche thing. We'll have tables set up. We'll put the Hitler mustache on Espaillat, outside of the colleges and things like that. We'll rile people
I could
up.
just, I'm in your district. All I have to do is go downstairs.
Yeah, it's easy, right?
And just bring a table downstairs, put it outside my building.
It's very important to Russell that there's a short commute. That's very important to him.
If I can do it right downstairs, I'm in.
Yeah, indeed. All right, we got a few more super chats. We will get to those in a moment, but let's do this one first here. We're going to go a little out of order just because we talked about the DeSantis campaign. So while we're on the topic of electoral politics, let's move ahead. We'll come back to that other headline in a second. But let's go to some breaking news, folks. Breaking news. Game-changing, shocking news here. The Lincoln Project has made an endorsement in the 2024 race. The Lincoln Project endorses Joe Biden for re-election, formally and officially, throughout his political career.
I thought it was going to be RFK.
No, they're riding with Biden over there at the Lincoln Project. Throughout his political career, President Biden has always stood up for democracy. Ha ha ha. The fight for freedom isn't ending anytime soon. We must re-elect President Biden in 2024. Let's hear the Lincoln Project's ad for Joe Biden as they issue their endorsement.
Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty? We stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Will we stand for the defense of democracy? For such defense matters to us because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity. 1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would, and we did. We did.
So 3 people missing a vital part of their humanity walk into a bar.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
We're once again joined by Ukrainian's ambassador to the United States. We're going to stand with you as long as it
Look
takes.
at the Lincoln Project. The entirety of their ad is Joe Biden, more war. We like war, right? We all love war. This is leadership. Paid for by the Lincoln Project. There was some speculation. Hey, what if Donald Trump goes away?
How'd they get that woman from the Dove ad?
Exactly. There was some speculation on some people's part that, hey, what if Trump faces a challenge in the Republican Party? What'll happen to all these never Trump Republicans? Like, will they try to back a non-Trump GOPer? Or will they stick with Biden? And I always knew that they were going to stick with Biden because, look, here we have a viewpoint diverse show. We have a very viewpoint diverse audience. I really try to talk to people of all different kinds of political beliefs and ideologies and points of view. And I try to engage in good faith with anybody, whatever their particular opinions happen to be. However, the sort of neocon Bush-aligned Republicans, I have never accepted that these are people who actually hold good faith and honest political convictions. These are people who do not have opinions or positions. They have interests. They have desires. Their desire is more for them and less for everybody else. And so these Lincoln Project grifters, like the only reason you would support George W. Bush to the end through the Iraq War is if you're in on the grift, right? So these Lincoln Project people, these are lifers. These are lifelong, bloodless, emotionless, thoughtless grifters. They go where the money is. And so once they have a PAC that's aligned, that is getting checks, that is raking in money hand over fist from all these shitlibs, you think they're going to turn their back on Joe Biden? They would endorse Biden over Jeb at this point because that's who's paying them. And all these people ever gave a shit about is who's paying them. And so here you have it. Now formally, Biden 2024 from the Lincoln Project.
Well, that is probably the only good news Ron DeSantis has gotten this week. Because the last thing he needs is their fucking endorsement. Like, honestly, if the Lincoln Project endorsed Ron DeSantis, I would have to back off my prediction. Like, I think that would be so damaging to his image he couldn't recover. The Elon thing, that mostly embarrasses Elon. He can recover from that. If he got endorsed by the Lincoln Project, that would be gold for Trump. And the fact that they endorsed Biden and the kind of ad they ran to endorse Biden, it just really shows you what a bubble these people live in, because there's nobody who doesn't hate those people that you don't already have. You didn't gain a single vote by getting an endorsement from the Lincoln Project. Right. And anybody who might have said, well, Biden's not really like those other Democrats. Well, now that just went out the window, right? Now you might as well be AOC to people who really pay attention to the Lincoln Project. Right? Exactly. Like any daylight you might have had from other the bad Democrats, that's it right there. And the fact that this whole clusterfuck of people is so out of touch that they think an ad in a country with runaway inflation, it collapsing civil order, right, to make an ad about his commitment to Ukraine.
Yeah. Well,
what?
That shows you where their bread is buttered, man, because
they got their finger on the pulse of the American people, all right. They know what they're concerned about.
Hey, listen, to their credit, they have the finger on the pulse of the people who write them checks, because, to the well-off shit libs who make $350,000 a year with the Ukraine flag on the porch and the, in this house we believe, lawn sign in the yard, that is an animating issue. Right. And that does hit them where they feel it. And it gets those check writing hands out. So, I think, to a certain extent, you have to give them credit. They know who their donors are. They know who pays them, and they know how to signal to them.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. But do they care about winning at all? Like, there are other things you could do to promote him without getting that into Ukraine. Do they realize how deeply unpopular that war is with most people? Like, of all things to build your ad around.
The best thing that could happen to the Lincoln Project is Trump wins again. That's 4 more years of fundraising. So, they could do a springtime for Hitler thing. Hey, what if we make more money off a losing campaign than off a winning campaign? Right? You could have Nathan Lane, Matthew Broderick in that room there, giving them that kind of advice.
Sometimes I and I think a lot of us probably feel this way. When I watch an ad like that, there's a part of me that says, God, I wish I were rich enough for these to be my politics.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Then some part of you feel like, God, where'd I go wrong?
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll get there one of these days.
Well, we're moving on up.
Moving on up.
To the east side.
Indeed. All right, let's knock out a couple more super chats. We got one more headline, then we'll get into the main segments here. Hey, guys, could you explain to me why you are in favor of student loan payback? Why the people who get the most screwed is the poor, who would now have to flip the bill for the rich, seem bourgeois? Well,
what the fuck are you talking about? I got student loans. I couldn't have gone to school without student loans. I grew up on welfare. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about?
The idea that it's only rich people and PMC people who would benefit off of student loan
That's
forgiveness
ridiculous.
Doesn't make sense on the face of it.
Those people don't need the student loans.
They don't have the student loans. Right. The people who take out student loans are people who couldn't afford to go to college, but for the ability to get loans. And if you notice right now, Biden actually put out in a tweet today that in the economy we're building, you won't need a 4-year degree, which is actually to his credit. I mean, not that they are building any such thing, right? But it is nice to see. I will give him credit for this. It's nice to see a Democrat signal for the first time, probably in my lifetime, that you don't need a 4-year college degree to have a decent life. Because the Obama mantra was, well, in the economy of tomorrow, a college degree is the same as a high school diploma. And what that gave everybody was the false impression that in order to have a good life, you had to go to college. And there's a certain group of people who are particularly screwed by that because that is what they were told from the time they were not 14, 15, from the time they were 5 and 6 years old, until they got out of college and graduated into an economy. You're talking about 2008, 2009, 2010, into a miserable recession with six figures of debt. And so that is why they should have their student debt forgiven. And by the way, that would be a major, major boon to the entire country, to everybody. Whoever owns a car dealership should be praying for student loan debt cancellation. Whoever is a real estate agent should be praying for student loan debt cancellation. The market for those things would go off the hook if you canceled student loan debt, because you'd have millions of people who all of a sudden have $600, $700, $800, $900 a month freed up to buy cars, to get mortgages, right? And so it would be a win for everybody. But no, the rich people who you're talking about, they don't take out the loans in the first place. And yeah, look, to some people, there are some like working class people who take out loans and they get rich and they end up having their debt canceled. And you could say that's not fair. Is that any reason to penalize the vast majority of student loan borrowers who took them out because they needed to and didn't get that promised sort of better life that they thought they were getting when they
and
signed
also
up for it?
they accounted for this to a certain extent by doubling the amount for people who went on Pell Grants, like I did, the poorest people
and the poor, and and the way Biden did it. Now, I don't agree with the way Biden did it. I thought it should have been universal, every dime of debt canceled. Look, I just made a point why it's humane and just to do on the borrower's end. You could do. I'm for student loan debt as a punitive measure against all of these institutions that fuck kids over and lure them into taking debt, including, by the way, the colleges themselves. To the largest extent possible, student loan debt should not be repaid by the taxpayers. It should be repaid by the colleges. These for-profit colleges should be stripped to the final
all of
screw.
that is true.
They should be run the fuck out of business. Right? Now, realistically, you can't do it all that way. You can't do it all that way. So obviously, the public treasury is going to have to account for some of that. But no, absolutely. Colleges like Ithaca, Skidmore, right? All these. I mean, even I don't think there really should be any need for private education. There shouldn't be any such thing as a prestigious school, in my view. School is not about prestige, right? School is about learning what you need to do what you want to do, or learning what you need to live the kind of life that you want to live. To me, the idea of, oh, this is a great school, this is a shitty school, bullshit. I don't think that has to be, but that's me. Bottom line is these institutions have no business profiting in this obscene way off of a product that is not all it's made out to be. And now finally, even the Democrats are having to admit that because of the hole they have dug themselves with the working class.
Well, this is where the conservatives have a point here. The argument that, and thank you for the chat. I didn't mean to be nasty about it, but as somebody who who could never have gone to college without that program, when I hear this, it drives me crazy because it's such. I mean, we know from the numbers, it's not like I'm the exception, I'm the rule. most of the people who take out student loans do not come from these privileged backgrounds. Those are not the people who would mostly benefit from this. That's just propaganda from people who, as a general rule, are all about subsidizing corporations, giving them tax cuts, not closing the loopholes that allow them to get away with murder. But this is what really bothers them. They whip up the public to have this vision of these, multi-millionaires who are going to get their student loans forgiven, when mostly it's people like me, and primarily, frankly, people of color.
There's a wonderful article. Sorry, go ahead.
But going beyond that, look, as in so many ways in this country, the system has failed. The system is not working. You do have certain occupations that require college training, right? You're not going to learn to be an architect on the job, right? You're not going to learn to be a doctor on the job. There are certain things that an apprentice system should be instated for that you really don't need college for. But there are other things you do need college for. And this is an argument you hear only pretty much exclusively from conservatives. That is a valid argument. Okay, so you forgive the student loans, then what? You haven't fixed the problem, and it's a big problem because basically you've created a system where people can take out unlimited amounts of money, right? They can take out, there is no limit. Anybody, doesn't matter what your credit's like, doesn't matter what your income is like. Student loans are guaranteed. You can take out as much as you want. The colleges figured out that they can really grift off of that. So they just kept inflating their tuition and putting in crazy amenities into their schools, these grand athletic facilities and swimming pools so that they can jack up the tuition because they know it's going to get paid by the government. And then the poor kid's stuck with a fucking $500,000 loan walking out the door. I know people with social work degrees who owe $250,000 fucking dollars in student loans that they are never going to be able to pay back. So the whole system is fucked. And if you want to argue, well, forgiving student loans without fixing that system is pointless, we're just going to be right back here in a few years, that argument I'm sympathetic to, because that's an argument based in reality. Arguing we shouldn't do it because Jeff Bezos is going to be the one to benefit, that's just not true.
Yeah, there was an amazing article written by Megan Day, who's now an editor at Jacobin Magazine. One of the reasons that magazine...
Yeah, we interviewed her, didn't we?
I interviewed her 3 times, back for the audio podcast. Yeah, she's a wonderful writer, and she got promoted to editor, which is one of the reasons why Jacobin is not great to read anymore, because they like promoted their best writer out of a writing job. She doesn't write. She doesn't write anymore. But she wrote a great article. Basically, the title was Why We Need Free College, and you could make the same argument for student debt cancellation for everyone, even rich people. And I'll try and find that link and post that in the description of this video when we're off, because that's a great piece to read if you want to dig more into this issue. There was that, and there was also another school of thought where, like, because you talked about how all these colleges, they charge all these prices and then they build these amenities of swimming pools and hotels. I think there was a piece written about this too, where it made the interesting point that, like, the way a lot of people's lives go, right? The way you kind of think you're supposed to live is that when you're young, you kind of slum it, right? And build up a net worth and build up an income so that when you get older and retire, you can live very, very comfortably, right? And the way these colleges have it set up, it's the opposite. When you're 19, you live in this palatial, pastoral paradise of dorms, and food is fed to you, and swimming pools, and this and that. And then you spend your whole life paying for that experience, and you retire in a fucking slum. Right? It just sends you on the opposite course than you should, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
So that argument is valid, that you're slapping a Band-Aid, and not even a Band-Aid that's going to stop the bleeding for very long.
Right.
I mean, $20,000. What's that? I mean, these schools, I know very successful people who make a lot of money who still owe hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans.
Of course. But thank you for the chat. We very, very much appreciate it. We gave you a lot of time for that $10, so we hope we answered to your satisfaction, or at least we hope we answered in a way that you can respect us enough to agree to disagree. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $1.99, and thanks for the $4.99. It would be great if you can get Chris Hedges as a guest. Yeah, we would love that. Obviously, that would be wonderful to get Mr. Hedges on the show. We would love that very, very much.
We keep meaning to ask him.
Kinky, really appreciated your Target Red Sox outrage. Well, thank you. I kept this nearby in case someone brought that up. There you go, everybody. There you go. It's funny how when I did that video, I put that video up. I didn't plan to do that. I happened to be in a Target picking up some stuff. And I just, hey, while I'm here, maybe I should do a little selfie video sort of lampooning the whole Target controversy. And so I decided to do it. And that got a lot of response on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook. And it's amazing how many people didn't get that it was a joke on both sides. You had some left-wing people who thought I was making a serious argument, that I was really, really, sort of trolling by this,
including a what? Emmy winning writer?
Yeah, there was a writer who claimed he was an Emmy nominee who quote tweeted me and insulted me in some way, that I was,
he said his face was lopsided.
Yeah, he said I had a lopsided face or something. So I said it was an honor to be retweeted by the first ever Emmy nominee with zero sense of humor. I thought you need a sense of humor to be an Emmy nominated writer, right?
That's why my money's on ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had a lot of right-wingers who were just incensed that I would try and make light of the issue. They're like, "Oh, so I guess you want to tuck your balls into your pajamas." I'm like, "All right, Jesus Christ, man. Just having a little fun at the world's expense, right?" That's all. But thank you, Kinky. Oops, did you give us one more, Kinky, that I just deleted by accident? I hope not. If you did, just let us know. And type it again, but I don't think so. Everyone cowbell is like thinking Twitter is real. No, it's like watching the returns on Super Tuesday in 2020 when 3 days ago all those people were saying they were going to vote for Bernie and then they voted for Biden once Obama told them to. It's not about Twitter being real. It's about sitting through an election process and watching how easily Democrats can just be directed in whichever way the party bosses want them directed. More war 2024. Thank you, Sammy Halam. We appreciate that very, very much. Let's do from Dan Richmond here. Correction, Lincoln Project didn't endorse Biden. They endorsed Biden, as in Biden Consultants, Biden Lake Houses, Biden Range Rovers. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate that very much.
This guy should write our jokes.
Yeah, that's not bad. Ron spent political capital protecting Elon from exploding rockets when he should have focused on keeping his campaign's launch from crashing and burning. That's the thing. Would you want to protect the guy who launched it like that from any legal liability? He should have sued his ass.
Exactly. He should have turned around the next day and been
fuck you.
Yeah, what? Fucking, you want me to pay you back for that launch?
For that launch? Right.
You ruined me.
Right. I should sue your ass for that. Never mind defend you from liability. I should fucking sue your ass for that shit.
I've been building up to this for years. You ruined it in 10 minutes.
We got one more headline here. Fiona Hill is a name you might recall. Kind of an obscure name, but fairly well known in certain circles. She served as an intelligence analyst under Bush and Obama from 2006 to 2009. She's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Brookings Institution. She also served as Donald Trump's National Security Council staff from 2017 to 2019 before she kind of turned on him. She testified against him during the first impeachment hearing, but she gave a speech at the Leonard Meri conference. Leonard Meri was the president of Estonia from 1992 to 2001, and she gave a speech that was a really, really interesting speech. The entire speech is available to read, but we're going to just read a few segments of it because she's obviously very pro-Ukraine and very anti-Russia, but she was basically there sounding the alarm bell to the foreign policy sort of elites of the world that Ukraine is in fact a proxy war. It's not the kind of proxy war that, guys like Aaron Mate claim it is, which I agree fully with Aaron in that way. But it's also a proxy war in the sense that she is talking about here. She does drop a few red pills on the audience here. And so it's not a very long speech. We will link to that in the description of this video as well. I encourage you to read the whole thing. It's not very long, but we're just going to read a few different pieces from it here. Since 1991, the U.S. has seemingly stood alone as the global superpower. But today, after a fraught two-decade period shaped by American-led military interventions and direct engagement in regional wars, the Ukraine war highlights the decline of the United States itself. This decline is relative economically and militarily, but serious in terms of U.S. moral authority. Unfortunately, just as Osama bin Laden intended, the U.S.'s own reactions and actions have eroded its position since the devastating terrorist attacks of 9/11. Quote, America fatigue and disillusionment with its role as the global hegemon is widespread. This includes in the United States itself, a fact that is frequently on display in Congress, news outlets, and think tank debates. For some, the U.S. is a flawed international actor with its own domestic problems. For others, the U.S. is a new form of imperial state that ignores the concern of others and throws its military weight around. What did I say in our last show when we talked about military sort of recruitment numbers sort of sagging? I think there are a lot of reasons for that, but the primary one that I can sort of diagnose as I see it is that there is this fatigue. There is this drain of will post-Cold War and post-9/11, given the squandering of all the goodwill after 9/11 with our various, wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, right? And so she talks about that there. America fatigue, not only around the world, not only is the world getting sick of our shit, but we inside our own borders are becoming sick of our country's shit. And that is creating a sort of existential malaise, a sort of dread, a sort of drain here at home. I'm going to read a second part of it. In the so-called global South, and what I am loosely referring to as the rest of the world, there is no sense of the U.S. as a virtuous state. Perceptions of American hubris and hypocrisy are widespread. Trust in the international system that the U.S. helped invent and has presided over since World War II is long gone. Elites and populations in many of these countries believe that the system was imposed on them at a time of weakness when they were only just securing their independence. Even if elites and populations have generally benefited from Pax Americana, they believe the U.S. and its bloc of countries in the collective West have benefited far more. For them, this war is about protecting the West's benefits and hegemony, not defending Ukraine. One more. We're almost done. Here's slide number 3. Countries in the global South.
Shut up. We're learning you something.
We're learning you something. Countries in the global South's resistance to the U.S. and European appeals for solidarity on Ukraine are an open rebellion. This is a mutiny against what they see as the collective West dominating the international discourse and foisting its problems on everyone else while brushing aside their priorities on climate change compensation, economic development, and debt relief. The rest feel constantly marginalized in world affairs. Why, in fact, are they labeled? This is a great quote. Why, in fact, are they labeled, as I am reflecting here, the global South, having previously been called the third world or the developing world? Why are they even the rest of the world? They are the world, representing 6.5 billion people. Our terminology reeks of colonialism. Wow. Dropping some red pills on the elite audience there. Now, ultimately, she lands on the side of
she just doesn't know math. We have 9 billion right here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right in the United States. You've never seen such big crowds. You go from one end of the country to the other. There's so many people.
Exactly. Now, what's fascinating about that is she does land ultimately not too far from where the audience of that speech already is, which is, yes, we have to stick it out and support Ukraine, but this is how the world sees it. Basically, she's admitting what the actual conflict is. And then ultimately she takes what I feel is the wrong side of it, right? But she's red pilling them as to what the actual conflict is, which, I mean, we played earlier in the show how the Lincoln Project played that very hawkish ad about Biden and Ukraine and things like that. That's the sort of blue pill version that you still have certain sort of factions of the media, certain factions of it, more the Democratic Party, but some in the GOP as well, trying to sell people. But what she lays out there, that is absolutely what the conflict is. That's why you have the BRICS alliance taking shape, right? Yep. That's the whole thing. So it is a proxy war by her own admission. The proxy war is the quote unquote rest of the world, which has 2/3 of the world's people, the rest of the world versus the US, versus the West, versus NATO, versus the G7. That's it. She lays it out. She lays it out right there. That's one of your own saying that. That's Miss Resistance Fiona Hill, coming out. She's the one who turned on Trump. She was a big hero on MSNBC. She had her 15, minutes of fame amongst all the libs. She spells it out there about as clearly as you can.
You mean she's not going to have a spot on Biden's presidential advisory council?
I don't think so. Not talking like that. She don't have the messaging right.
All right, so I'm going to tie this together with the whole Kissinger thing. And I'm even going to throw in some Joseph Campbell. All right, so anybody who knows Joseph Campbell broke down and showed there's a consistent pattern across the world in its mythologies. And his seminal work, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, shows how there are certain archetypes in myth that come up again and again. Now, the type that she is, and I would argue that Kissinger was, is the scientist, the architect, the one who designs the maze that the Minotaur goes into and doesn't have any particular moral investment in the outcome, right? That's their deal, to make the maze, right? Ooh, this will be interesting. What's going to happen now? A lot of foreign policy people, the best of them, are kind of like that. They're kind of detached, analytical people with no real moral sensibility. Very much like, to really geek out, the Mentats in Dune. They were supposed to be pure logic, and you used them as advisors, but you didn't want to put them in charge. And I would argue a guy like Kissinger, who people still listen to today because from a completely amoral perspective, he's very aware of the kinds of things she's describing here. He always has been, of this real politics,
right,
as they
exactly.
called it, of
Yeah.
what's
That's
going
exactly
on
what it
and
was,
how
yeah.
you interplay. Kissinger's career is what happens when you get a guy like Kissinger working for a guy like Nixon, who has no moral vision. You see, a leader can recruit people like that, but they always have to understand the limitations of their vision. They always have to understand that these people are very useful in offering you analysis and information, but they lack a moral center. They lack a moral vision. They see everything as chess. Right. It is for you as a leader to bring a human dimension to the decisions you make, taking that advice into account, but not basing your policy exclusively on what they would have you do. Kissinger is a guy who had a leader with his own psychopathic tendencies, who had his own demons, who had his own lack of moral vision and moral center. Put two guys like that together, you get millions dead, right? You could have put Kissinger with Kennedy, you wouldn't have had that outcome. He probably would have been a very good advisor for a leader with some restraint. Right? But you just let a guy like Kissinger just go based on his cold analysis, and you wind up getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner as a description for genocidal bombings, right? So look, what she's saying there, yeah, she has a lot of insight. She has a lot of vision. She has no moral center. Like all of this is just about, well, how do we play the angles? How do we work the angles?
Right, exactly.
Right. But her vision, yeah, I would agree with all of that. The way that she's discussing how these different players are trying to jostle for position, her analysis of where India is in all this, where countries like Japan and Korea are. It's worth reading this speech if you are interested in what I would say is a good summation of where we are geopolitically at this historical moment.
Yeah, and what's especially valuable about reading this is, like I said, for any doubters, I mean, most of the people in our audience don't doubt this narrative, but you do get a lot of pushback if you engage online a lot. You hear the narrative that Biden wants you to hear, that the Lincoln Project types want you to hear, that Lindsey Graham wants you to hear, which is that this is an act of aggression on Russia's part, and we owe it to not only Ukraine, but to the world to put everything on the line to fight back. And here you hear from one of their own who agrees that we'd have to fight Russia and beat them back and invest in Ukraine, right? She's very, very pro-Ukraine. But you hear her admitting that this is the conflict. She's admitting this is the conflict. She is admitting in this speech that, yeah, all that bullshit on MSNBC is just that. It's bullshit. It's nonsense.
Right.
This is the real conflict. Right.
Well, and I think a lot of them think this way. They just don't say it out loud. I think a lot of the people in charge actually see it this way.
Everybody
the
knows
assumption that all these people are stupid, I've never bought that.
No.
You have to have a certain animal cunning to get to the level of the game that these people are at.
Vosh is probably that stupid. I mean, he's probably that dumb. But
So-
that's why
some of them
Vosh
are.
isn't on MSNBC, right?
Yeah. Cenk Uygur, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Zach, a lot's happened here since then. Unprecedented, actually. Thank you, Zach. Eric Rousseau, what Campbell's archetype would be Captain Save-A-Ho?
Well, that would be the hero archetype.
That would be the hero. Exactly. All right, speaking of Henry Kissinger, folks, it is Sunday. Those of you who know what Sunday means may get a sense of where we're going with this. Those of you who don't, you will find out soon enough. But Henry Kissinger turned 100 years old yesterday. That was his birthday. We did a segment on his 100th birthday on Thursday's show where we reviewed the numerous crimes throughout his life, specifically the ones in Cambodia, which were recently written about more extensively even than ever before in an Intercept article by journalist Nick Terse. But at 100, Henry Kissinger is hanging it up, as you do when you get to be 100 years old. It's time to retire. And following in the footsteps of George W. Bush, what do war criminals do when they retire now? They get into painting. And so we have here some early limited release editions from the upcoming Henry Kissinger Gallery. So we have some advanced sort of images.
We had
from
to pull some
paintings
strings
on display. Yeah, we made some phone calls. We say, hey, can we try to maybe we can have an auction of sorts, right? Maybe some people can make some bids on these. These are paintings by Henry himself that are soon to be on display. So let's start off here. Why don't, Russell, you just kind of let us know what each of these symbolize, if you have the titles, so we know. Oops, that one's sideways. But what is that one?
That went sideways. That one's called Hot Night in Phnom Penh.
Hot Night in Phnom Penh.
So it kind of, yeah. I mean, it looks like actually during the bombings. Now, to my knowledge, he never actually went there, but clearly it plagued his conscience, right? So this is his kind of representation of if he had been there or how he felt about what was happening there. Maybe he had a nightmare about it. Or maybe this is just his interpretation of what it would be like to drink there.
Right, exactly. Exactly. All right.
Night.
Let's take a look at this one. This is more a still life style. This is an interesting one. We usually get still lifes of just the flowers and the vases, but this is more of a still life style painting. So you want to tell us what this one is?
This one's called Still Life Behind Enemy Lines at the Palm Court.
Interesting.
At the Palm Court. That's the interesting part. Now, it's widely believed, some people have been examining these and analyzing these. It's been widely rumored that Kissinger met with the Viet Cong in order to sabotage the 1968 Democratic campaign. And this would certainly seem to be evidence of that. You know, supposedly they had a secret meeting to not bring the war to a conclusion in order to sabotage Hubert Humphrey. And hey, you know, I mean, we don't know if this just came from his mind, if it's a fantasy, but it looks like evidence to me.
Yeah, it looks very, very realistic. Doesn't seem like the kind of thing you would imagine. He was really going for realism with that piece. And so that's something. I mean, we could probably get a good sort of bidding war started on that piece. All right, this next one is a bit dark, but you want to explain what this is?
Yeah, this one's very, very strange. This was supposedly he called it Me and Viet 2008. Now, a lot of people think he's actually referencing the leader of the South Vietnamese during the Vietnam War, and by 2008 he was actually dead. So they might have possibly dug him up for this self-portrait.
Yeah. That's a bit of a dark one. This is a bit brighter. This is a bit happier here. This is you really have to be sort of an inside sort of media sort of junkie to get this one. So talk about this.
All right, this is impressions from David Frost's green room. So this is a later piece, very Andy Warhol inspired. It's interesting the way his style evolved over time. The Cambodia piece has some Edward Munch in it. You see elements of the Shriek in it. But no, this is supposedly backstage before Nixon's famous interview / debates with Frost.
Yep.
And that you see a little production assistant there, and that's actually in the front. Little bit of trivia: all of the Nixon family dogs were named Checkers, so this is actually Checkers 8 in the foreground. And according to Kissinger, he kicked Checkers several times to get him to stay in that pose for long enough to be painted.
Yeah. Well, it came out well. Now, this is my personal favorite. This is a sort of a brighter, sort of happier one, but really vibrant here. Do you want to tell us what this one is?
Yeah, this was in what Kissinger calls his Peter Max phase. This one's called Tie Stick with Tricky Dick.
Yeah.
And this is them smoking up in the White House. And supposedly, according to Kissinger, you know, you would never have thought this. Nixon always seemed very uptight, but they would plan these bombing campaigns over Cambodia, and then they would break out the tie. You know, so they were getting a little wild there in the Oval Office.
Yep. So that is some preview pieces from the Henry Kissinger collection, a new gallery opening in Georgetown this fall. We got some advanced copies of the artwork, so we want to thank our contacts for letting us know about these, and we hope you can all make it to the auction. Those of you in the chat who were wondering, is this real or is this not? That's how you know it worked, when people were like, wait, is this real? No, I have to give credit to Gunny B. I think your name is Gunny B. You have the 2 dots over the U. I think you're German, so I'm probably mispronouncing your name. But when we did our Henry Kissinger clip, when we posted that to YouTube, Gunny said, well, at least he can paint, right? And I thought, oh, that's a great idea for this Sunday's Funny. So it's actually one of you guys in the audience who gave us the idea for that bit. We're like, let's create a series of Henry Kissinger paintings, being that he's 100 and he's hanging it up. And yes, I saw in the chat some people ask, this is AI. Yeah, those images were generated in like less than 60 seconds on Russell's AI. So Russell, do you want to talk about how you fit? Because it's fucking amazing. This one especially. I mean, they were all great, I thought, but this one especially. What was the prompt, and how long did it take for a computer to generate this image based on the prompt?
I gave it the prompt. Nixon and Kip. Well, I gave the full names because I wasn't sure if it would figure it out on the last name.
Right.
So I said Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger getting smoking weed or getting high. I can't remember exactly how I phrased it, in the Oval Office in the painting style of Peter Max. And that's
insane.
What it gave me.
In less than a minute, it spit this image out.
Less than 60 seconds.
I mean, that is so wild. It's so crazy. that technology.
I
is like
mean,
that.
the one I thought
Warhol.
it did best with. Yeah, it didn't actually give me what I asked for, and then we just went with it.
But it's still the Warhol.
I asked for Nixon kicking the dog. See, it's got funny guardrails.
Right.
You know, like that. I think it wouldn't show violence against an animal. I think that's why it wouldn't give me that. And I don't think it understood who Jackie Onassis was, because I asked for Jackie Onassis and it gave me somebody who looks like David Frost.
Right. Right. Yeah. So
I don't know what they were going for there.
We made lemonade of lemons on that one.
We just rolled with it. Yeah, some things it understood better than others. I thought what it did the best with was I gave it a prompt of Henry Kissinger in Cambodia with bombings in the background in the style of Edward Monk. And it gives you 4 options when you put in a prompt. All 4 of them were good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, those were good. Those are good. But no, it's just amazing how it just generated those based on these just totally crazy ideas that we had. It was able to accommodate us in less than a minute.
It does some things better than others. Like when I did my Dawn of the Dems article, I tried to generate the image with ChatGPT, and our friend ended up having to do it because it was shit what it came up with. I've tried to troll our audience with winged Chinese bat soldiers, and it hasn't done very well with that.
Well, I'm glad that didn't work.
I mean, it did some, but not what I wanted, really.
All right, we're gonna start our main segments of the evening in just a moment. These were long headlines because I think these were good headlines, so I hope you guys all agree. Please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button, and stick around. Thanks for being here. Zach Boyles, 199. We said that one already. Oh, I'm sorry. We got all these done. Okay. Henry George, do you think it's possible that RFK Jr. is playing 4D chess? All right. You know what? Fuck this.
That's it. I've got to do the show solo now. All right. Do you think it's possible RFK Jr. is playing 4D chess and seeing this as an opportunity to weaken Biden, knowing he's a long shot to win for Dems, giving Trump the chance to make him VP?
What am I sitting here for?
No,
what do I got to be here for?
So.
Is he playing 4D chess? No. He did an event in Kingston this afternoon. Actually, my father was at that event in Kingston. And he asked Kucinich, his campaign manager who was there, if he would consider running as an independent, as someone else in the crowd did. And apparently Kucinich gave them a very roundabout bullshit answer. You know, he said, well, if you don't want to vote for us in the primary, then don't vote for us. We're running as Democrats. So no, it's not 4D chess. But thank you for the $10. Maybe you haven't been here, Henry George. I didn't mean to take it out on you. It's just we've gotten that question a lot. But thank you for the donation. No, I think, look, he's a Kennedy. He has the same sort of nostalgia for the Democratic Party of old that Marianne Williamson has. And that's fine to feel that. It's another thing to insist that the country play along in that and entertain that. Like, this is politics here. This is world politics. These are very, very dire times. Okay, the people of this country and of this world cannot afford to accommodate your feelings of nostalgia for the Democratic Party of old. I'm sorry. So that's how I feel about that. All right. Bob TV. I don't know what Russell's doing. Is he yelling at the neighbors to stop partying too loud? There's a party across the street in the park, right? Bob TV. Wow, beautiful, creepy, dark art. I will take a 2 and send it to my ex-wife's mother. She's the people. Yeah, exactly.
Mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Mother-in-law.
Oh boy,
Somebody
Jody
out there got that.
Sunday nights have improved immensely since I found your streams. Well, thank you, Jody. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Jody.
Thanks to Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is playing in Northampton, Massachusetts tonight, which is not far from where I am. He's actually playing.
Did Jimmy give us a shout out? He never gave us a shout out.
He gave us a couple. You know, when Aaron Mate was hosting, they gave it to us. But I know Jimmy saw that tweet, and so yeah, he's in Northampton. He's not too far from me. He's actually playing in Cohoes, which is right near where I live, in a couple of weeks. So I might go and catch that. But let's keep going here. We're all caught up on our super chats. All right. Big segment here. Big segment here that we have to get to, of course. The AOC Town Hall in Corona, Queens. So AOC's Town Hall in Corona, Queens turned chaotic on Friday when she was met with protest and dissent from all over the political spectrum, both inside and outside the venue. So we have a lot of video to play here, thanks to our friend Jose Vega, who was in the chat earlier. Thanks to our friends at the Indie News Network. We're going to play some of their footage that they got and a couple of other clips as well. So first, let's just play a collection of protests regarding the Ukraine war and AOC's votes to continue funding the Ukraine war. This is our first collection of clips. This goes on for a little while, folks, because that's how rowdy and rough this town hall is. So let's get it started.
So next, we're going to go with
nuclear war with Russia. We're sending F-16. If we send F-16s, America to Ukraine, we're on the verge of nuclear war. It's not okay. Are you going to stop this war? Okay, are you going to stop this war? That's my question. Are we going to...
Yeah, we know about the paper.
Yeah, we know about the paper. Why are you afraid of your constituents?
That guy really is the counter protester. He gets up a lot.
Activity because it has been creating a lot of harm to foreign. I will share and I will share something. I don't like that Republicans passed a 1.7 trillion tax cut on the wealthiest people in this country. I don't like that we continue to report our military budget. I don't like that we have enormous amounts of...
You know, I'm surprised that guy didn't bring his cowbell. He forgot his cowbell home. That guy.
Forgot the cow.
Yeah.
I think I
cowbell
saw
tonight. Yeah. That's my pension. I'm surprised the Republicans. You see here, what you're seeing here is the collapse of this social democratic movement. It's a sad thing to see because we were part of that movement for a while. But what you're seeing here is an entire movement just make a mockery of itself. And what you're seeing here is her support eroding to the point where people can hijack a town hall, and this is what it is. You're getting it from all sides.
You can't blame our guys this time.
No.
That is exactly why we use paper slips. Is
that Kevin McCarthy does not have the votes to negotiate.
Second most in the United States. You're trying to go to war against Russia, and you're saying, oh, they're spending so much on the military.
Military budget. You gave out white slips, boy.
Thank you.
I have a question right now. Why don't you and the squad have the ability to tell their supporters not to vote for Biden unless he concedes on ending this war? Why won't you do it? That's a lot of money you are sending to Ukraine. And you're talking about you're bringing money to your community? What about the war? She don't even want to answer the question. She is contributing to America's debt. You are contributing to America. You got a lot of blood on your hands, and you're going to have to answer to God one day. You're going to have to answer to God one day. Just believe that, girl. You keep clapping and smiling. You're going to have to answer to God.
Now, she was laughing and smiling throughout that. So you see a lot of protests on the Ukraine issue, but that's not all. Let's go to this guy here. This is a Cuban man who Jose messaged me because he knew we were going to cover this. He said, just make sure you make known that the Cuban guy is not one of ours. And I figured as much. But here
He's
he is.
undercover.
raising a different issue, but again, giving it to her pretty loud.
American citizens before migrants. American citizens. Don't you touch me. You hear me? Don't touch me. Get your hands off. Get your hands off. Where are you on the migrant issue? You're absent. American citizens. You're throwing veterans out of this country. Where are you? You're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit.
Right. So
it is said that the people are revolting.
You said it. They stink on ice.
They stink on ice. So that's inside the hall. All right. Let's hear a little bit what was going on outside the hall. This is reporting from Roger Meadows of Indie News Network. We had a Roger Meadows super chat us the other night. I'm assuming this is the same Roger Meadows. If it is, if you're here, take a bow. Good work here. He was outside with his camera getting the perspective of some others in the crowd. So here's a couple of people talking to Roger from INN.
About air conditioners and how to get a passport. She was not talking about the crime. 3 people got stabbed in Junction Boulevard on May 13th. She didn't talk about that.
Okay.
It's constant crime on the transit system.
Okay.
It's crazy.
What else were your concerns?
That's all the crime.
Okay.
The crime and then the migrant situation, of course.
Mm-hmm.
When we have our homeless Americans on the street, but when they come in, they just put them in front of them. Which I think, like, where was this money for the Americans that are homeless?
So I sat there and I listened to AOC talk a whole lot of nonsense about Republicans doing this, Republicans doing that. What are you doing? What are you doing? I don't give a crap about the Republicans. What are you doing?
Feel free to curse if you want.
No, I don't curse.
Liar. Keep going.
I don't.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So, I don't know. AOC says she's doing stuff. She sounds like a 2-year-old talking about economics, and then her supporters are being brainwashed to sleep for some odd reason. All you gotta do is pick up a book and read. Shout out to Thomas Sowell. He's a real one right there. That's all she gotta do. And all she's doing is rocking these people to sleep.
I agree with you with everything except for the Thomas Sowell part.
All right, so obviously Thomas Sowell is a very prominent black conservative intellectual and author. And so that's INN's reporting, getting the points of view of some people outside the hall. And now, of course, we're going to go to a friend of the show, Jose Vega's footage. He's not in this himself. You see his friend Kynan, who we've interviewed on the show as well. They were not even allowed in because AOC and her staff clearly know who they are by now, and they didn't want any part of them. So here's Jose and Kynan being denied entry to the show.
They probably ended up feeling like we should have let them in because what we ended up with was so much worse.
Right.
Than
At least
anything
if Jose
they've ever
stood
done.
up and did it, people would have felt like, well, I guess we can't top that, so maybe we should.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
He'd have showed them up. Right. Instead, they had, a bunch of guys give it their best shot. And some of them did quite well. But here's Jose and Kynan being told, no, you can't come in.
Well, why can't he go in?
I'm telling you he can't go in. That's why.
Why is that?
Because I'm telling you they can't go in.
So he's not allowed in?
Yes, he's not allowed in.
Why?
I'm telling you he's not allowed in.
Why?
I'm telling you he's not allowed in. That's what a democracy we have here. No, can't come in. Kynan actually is in AOC's district. He actually lives in AOC's district. So he is actually a voter. Let's just play this one more time.
Can't go in. That's why.
Why is that?
Because I'm telling you they can't go in.
Okay.
So he's not allowed in?
Yes, he's not allowed in.
Why?
I'm telling you he's not allowed in.
Why?
I don't have to give a reason. I'm telling you he's not allowed in. So that's the reason. You want to hang out here. Thank you.
I don't have to give you a reason why you can't attend a public town hall with your congressperson. Fuck you. Fuck you. This is America.
Kind of ridiculous to me. They're not giving me any kind of reason whatsoever. They just escorted me out. I registered for this. I'm a constituent, and they're not allowing me in.
Unfortunately, I do not personally make the rules. It's their event, and
I don't make the rules. I just shoot people who don't follow them.
You can wait over here for now. Maybe they'll change something.
No problem.
All right, So they were cool. They waited. Now, okay, this is interesting. So Jose posted this to his Twitter afterwards. This is him getting confirmation from a friend of his that AOC and her staff, in fact, did know who they were and made sure that they weren't going to get inside the building.
Wait, okay, so just say that, repeat that again. I'm recording this now. So you were at the event, right, and you were in line, and then tell me what you heard the security say.
One of them said he was going to go downstairs and make sure that certain people that didn't come in that weren't supposed to. And they said, one of them said, oh, yeah, we already got one of them. And then they said, well, did you see the other one? They said, yeah, he left too.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So there's the scene at the AOC Town Hall. This is what happens when you do not go to bat for the movement that put you there, right? Notice you don't see Shama Sawant getting shouted down like that at her events. Because number one, okay, her constituents don't feel betrayed by her. Number two, you know, any right-wingers who want to go and troll her event understand that they're going to be schooled, right? I mean, they're going to be owned back. AOC can't do any of that. AOC doesn't have a response. You saw. Because what response is there? That guy who said, this is my pension going out the door to Ukraine. Her response is, well, you know, the Republicans shouldn't have cut taxes. Like, it's just so old and hackneyed. It's the same shit we've been hearing for 30 years. And whether that's true or not, and of course it is true, Republicans cut taxes for rich people. Everybody knows that. Everybody understands that. You, at the end of the day, cannot defend your support for billions, hundreds of billions of dollars out the door to Ukraine during the debt ceiling negotiations now, which we're going to get to in our next segment. You can't defend that. You can't defend that from any point of view. That's why the left is on your ass about that. That's why the right is on your ass about that. And you have no position, and you so clearly have no confidence in your position because you know that you're just going along because it's too difficult not to. And so you have nothing to say. So you come back with this awfully stale talking point about the Republican tax cuts. That's why you have so many examples of people shouting you down at that town hall. That's why you're not able to fill the joint with your supporters, because you have an enthusiasm problem. And the people who are filling that vacuum are people who are pissed off at you. And they include, yes, Batista stan anti-Castro reactionaries. They include, conservatives. They also include a lot of anti-war left people. I saw some people in the chat saying that Cuban guy was a plant or a CIA. No, listen, believe me, I don't agree with them. There are a lot of right-wing Cubans in this country. That's well known. So not everyone is a plant. That's a real sentiment that exists.
Well, we were going to do this story. I guess other things came up. So Eric Adams, in his wisdom, sent some of the migrants to Williamsburg. And for any of you from around the country who don't know, that is like sending them to West Hollywood, or that's like sending them to Palo Alto.
Right.
I mean, this is sending them to this very hip, upscale area. And
full of like young, rich, white progressives.
Yeah, that is Lib Central. And guess what? They weren't having it. They protested because they put the migrants in a school gym and it's a safety issue. And now you, whatever you think about this issue, you are not going to fucking tell me that if they had video of a bunch of people protesting in Texas because they were putting migrants in the school gym and it was a safety issue, you are not going to tell me those same fucking people would not have been calling them racist.
Right.
So that guy, it may be a Batista or whatever, Batista stan. You got plenty of people like this in New York now because they're doing things.
He said that guy killed JFK. that was Ted Cruz's father. That guy. Yeah.
They told veterans who were living in a hotel that they had to leave because they're putting migrants in there. So look,
that happened in my hometown. That happened in Newburgh, New York. That news report that you sent me, that was the Ramada Inn in Newburgh.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people in New York State who are pissed off about this. And yes, it's a total NIMBY thing. This is why I've said from the beginning, whatever you believe about immigration and borders, whatever your beliefs are, this was one of the greatest political trolls in American history, because the outcome was never in doubt to me that their point would very quickly be proven. They wanted to show that if these cities that call them racist and retrograde, if they had to deal with a taste of what border cities deal with, they would go crazy. I mean, if anything, their behavior is far worse because they're dealing with far less, with a far greater population to absorb these people. So what excuse do you have? There are 8 million people in New York City, and we can't handle it. But we're going to call El Paso racist when they complain about the fact that they're overwhelmed and their city services can't handle this. New York can't handle it, but El Paso can. That was their point. That was why they sent them to New York and to Chicago and to DC. And whatever you want to try to squirm your way out of it by saying, well, it's using people as pawns. Okay, well, AOC didn't use these people as pawns because I haven't seen her at the border once since Biden got elected.
Right.
Fucking people burned to death in a facility, man. That didn't bring her down there. It's not like there haven't been any horrors down there. Right. She
now that facility was in Juarez, just to
it was on the other side. I know.
But that's a result of the logjam at the border.
But it's a result of the policy.
Right.
You haven't gone down. Still kids in cages down there. You haven't gone down there. I haven't seen you crying down there.
Well, that's why they were crammed into the Juarez facility, because the cages are full. We don't have room in our cages. I'm sorry, facilities under Biden. Their facilities under Trump, their cages. Now. Right. Our facilities are too full, so they get turned around, and they end up overcrowding these south of the border migrant centers, which don't have even the, I mean, this sounds like a stupid thing to say because of the way we treat migrants, but their standards for those cages are even lower than our standards for our cages, right? I mean, you talk about splitting hairs, right? But whatever, for what it's worth, they overcrowd those
it's like the
detention
Victorian
centers.
Zoo down there.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's how you have, a situation like that. And worse, you have migrants living on the streets in a lot of these Mexican cities because they have nowhere to put them. And they're just living lives of poverty.
I've seen migrants on the streets
here
now.
Yeah.
I've seen migrants on the street. I've seen people with signs that they're migrants, families out on Fifth Avenue.
Oh, yeah, no. Right. So from a humanitarian point of view, the crisis now is far worse than it ever was under Trump when she was at the border crying into the fence when the cameras were on. Far worse. It's not even a contest.
So I'm saying this, it's easy for us because of his cultural signaling to say, oh, he represents some lunatic fringe of right wingers. No, that guy represents a lot of people in New York City now who are being impacted by this. And you got elected by people like me who went out campaigning for you to overthrow the establishment. Those of us who didn't flee the whole movement after Sanders endorsed Clinton, who decided we needed to do what the post-Goldwater Republicans did and build the power from the inside. And, I was one of those people. And you sold us out in 5 seconds. In 5 seconds. What were you there, a year? Before you just completely flipped on us. So look, I mean, once a Democrat gets into office in New York, you fucking can't get them out with dynamite. So I wouldn't count on her being voted out, although these are very strange times. She certainly won't be voted out by a Republican. I mean, maybe a Democrat gets it together to pull what she pulled, and there's such animus towards her that maybe that could actually be done, which would kind of be sweet justice. My question is, does she start taking the corporate money now? Because I don't see how she's going to raise money for a campaign. Who's going to donate? There's no grassroots base to donate to her anymore.
Yeah, but it's still, she's still the most famous member of Congress. This is part of why the two-party system just has to go, is because once a person like that is in there, it's almost impossible to get them out. And the people who are red-pilled about AOC by this point would not bother primarying her because we're under no illusions that whoever primaries her wouldn't turn out just the same. I mean, she replaced Joe Crowley, right?
Well, the only reason I would give that some chance is pissed off former supporters joining forces with what Republicans you have there.
All right. Well, how about this? What if RFK primaries AOC? What if he moves to Queens? You know,
I will support that campaign.
Loft near Silver Cup Studios.
Zach, I think we've got a deal.
Astoria. Yeah, that's the deal.
Let's pitch this to Zach.
We'll pitch this to Zach. Okay, President, no. You can move to the Bronx and primary AOC. There you go.
You know, I give tours of Harlem. I always talk about this. You know, because most of the people who take that tour are Europeans, because the element, if you travel around Europe, I have found the element of American culture that fascinates them the most is African American culture. That's what they're really fascinated by. So the whole Harlem tour, it's all white as chalk Europeans take that tour. And I talk about Adam Clayton Powell Jr. He held the congressional seat in Harlem from 44 to 70. And then Charlie Rangel, that corrupt old fuck, held that seat for 46 fucking years. He was in there from 1970. You read Hunter Thompson's Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, 72. He's writing about Charlie Rangel's first campaign in that book. He was there. He didn't retire until 2016. Then Esbiat got in. And yeah, it's partly demographic shifts. Harlem used to be 90% black. Now it's 60% black. But it's also because nobody credible ran. There was a guy, I don't even remember his name. He was like some Clinton carpetbagger. He had done some work in the administration. Nobody knew him. And Adam Clayton Powell IV, actually, his grandson, but he was running a vanity campaign. Nobody knew him either. So Adriano Esbiat got in. It's the first time Harlem's not represented by an African American since 1944. But now that he's in there, I mean, look at the career of his two predecessors. I'll be dead before Esbiat is out of that fucking seat. And yeah, sadly, it's probably the same thing with AOC. You know, I don't really understand that, because once you're elected, that's it. You got a pension for life, right?
Right.
You got health care for life. Who needs that shit?
Yeah, I think you got to win twice.
I don't understand.
I think once you win your second election, then you're good. They get locked in.
So why? I don't understand why you would sell your soul. You're already kind of set up now, right?
Oh, of course.
Like, what do you need to sell your soul for?
Absolutely.
Why? You know, look, man, it's not as easy to rack up $150 million without anybody noticing these days as it was in Pelosi's day when she came in. People are paying a little more attention now. A little more. Yeah. Like, are you counting on making Pelosi kind of money?
Right. Yeah, but as an influencer, I mean, she could.
I mean, that freaking fiance of yours seems like a simp, man. I don't think he's going to rack up that kind of money for you. Sorry,
soy boys.
I mean, you can smell it on him.
Guys, hit that like button, please. We got 558 likes, 794 in the chat. That's a deficit of about 236 likes. Can we get that number up? Can you hit that subscribe button, please? We have a big crowd in here. Thank you all very much for being here. It's great to see you all.
More likes.
9523. Come on, let's have a few of you guys hit that subscribe button, please. It really helps us out quite a bit. And if you'd like to sign up and support the show, patreon.com, Substack. Also, hit that join button right under the screen, and you can support us, make a recurring monthly donation to help keep this show afloat. It truly does help a great deal. DC says, codename Agent of Capital. That's a good one. I like that one. I like that. Thank you for the $5, my friend. Courtney, promoting censorship and consequences for being against their talking points, but they're complaining about fascism. Well, exactly. No, indeed. All right, let's go to Sandy. Okay, this is one I'm glad you asked, Sandy, because Sandy, I believe, is a patron. I believe you signed up recently. Extremely unhip to ask this, but would you explain the cowbell reference to this old boomer? Love this podcast, but I'm fairly new here and not totally plugged in yet. All right, Sandy, well, since you gave us a generous super chat, and since you're a patron, and since I have a feeling this video won't really get old anytime soon, why don't we show you what we mean by that, right? We haven't played the cowbell video in a while for old times.
There are
sake,
probably
right?
people here who haven't seen it.
There are people here who haven't seen it. So this was at the Trump arraignment when he was indicted, and he was brought into New York City to accept the charges. Russell went down, and he asked some of the libs who were there celebrating the indictment, hey, shouldn't we indict George W. Bush next, right? And this is how they reacted, and this birthed the meme of the cowbell left. This is what the cowbell reference is all about. So let's play.
So do you think he'll be found guilty?
If justice is served, he sure will be, for this and all the other crimes that he's accused of.
So do you think we should arrest George Bush next?
Why? What is about this? What's this whataboutism? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, but should we? I mean, if we're going to hold people accountable.
You know better than that?
You don't think we should?
I'm not going to be baited by you. I don't care what you think.
Okay, so you don't think we should arrest George Bush for war crimes?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. What do you think? Do you feel that he should be arrested?
If a grand jury of average New Yorkers indicts him, then he should be arrested. Exactly.
Well, you know, Michelle Obama called her partner in crime.
Oh, you're going after a black woman now, of course.
So do you think that's why?
So you have to demonize the black woman trying to get her point of crime.
So if you criticize Candace Owens, you're a white supremacist?
In your audience.
What if you criticize Candace Owens?
Is universally respected, whereas Candace Owens is a pathetic sister.
Right. What if you? This is what happens when you ask these people questions. They cannot ask.
All right, that's it. So that's what the cowbell reference, that's what we mean when we talk about the cowbell people. Yeah, those are the people who are going to vote for RFK, sure. Yeah, RFK is a real chance convincing them.
They're just dying to find an alternative to the establishment candidate.
Exactly. DC. AOC's got hella super PACs backing her. Super PACs equals corporate money. Yeah, I'm sure she does get a piece of that. All these different Democrat-aligned super PACs. I'm sure she does get a piece of that. I would
so?
Be shocked. Yeah, I mean, she says she doesn't raise money. She doesn't raise corporate money. But, I mean, look, these PACs fund the Democratic Party, and then that gets doled out. I mean, maybe she's safe enough where she doesn't need it, but I'm sure that would be available to her if she ever did. And I don't think she will. I think she's safe. Henry, wow, sorry I made both of you mad this Sunday. No, we're joking. We're putting on a show. He's the guy I walked out on when he talked about RFK. It's all in good fun. No. We're joking around. We're kidding around here. We joke around. We kid. Still enjoying the show. Two angry Yankees. No, not at all. Not at all. You're all good. All good. I'd ask him if I wanted to, but feel like the fire burned down an island where I grew up. It's out of my hands. Plus, I don't want to. Well, we could have had a deal. We could have had RFK.
We could have had a deal. That's politics.
Think about it, man. After the election, after the election, see if maybe he's interested. I'm surprised Trump didn't run against Meatball Ron for governor of Florida. That would be an epic race. Primaries him. That would be a crazy race. You think about that. That would be nuts. Tusker, more cowbell. See? We told you guys are crazy.
I didn't think you were here tonight.
Thank you for that donation. Yeah, I didn't think you were here tonight. Well, now you filed in, and we are ready to go. Segment number 2. Okay, so this is a segment that we've been wanting to do for a while. We feel like we haven't really done one of these sort of, more sort of serious domestically aligned segments here about, obviously, domestic economic policy. Last night, it was announced that Joe Biden and Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy reached an agreement to raise the debt ceiling before a potential default on the June 5th deadline could plunge the United States and the global economy into chaos. Now, the vote to approve the plan is set for Wednesday, and while Biden and McCarthy are projecting optimism about it, it remains to be seen whether enough Democrats and or Republicans will sign on. because the Democrats, some of them have their hard lines, which we know they'll probably cave if Biden tells them to. But these Freedom Caucus Republicans, who already kind of put McCarthy on notice by dragging him through 15 rounds of a speaker vote back in January when they had their own sort of force the vote saga there, they are insisting that they're not budging on certain issues. So CNBC outlined the sort of key components of the negotiations, which we will just sort of go through little by little here. These are points that they generally agree on, which are energy and mining permitting reform. Obviously, Democrats want more green permits. Republicans want more fossil fuel permits. But obviously, Biden is Mr. Willow Project, Mr. Inflation Reduction Act, the so-called climate bill, which opened up 600 million acres of ocean to drilling. And so, they won't have really much of a problem coming to some sort of agreement on that. And then rescind unused COVID-19 funds. Between 2020 and 2022, Congress authorized approximately $4.6 trillion to help the U.S. respond to the pandemic. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that about $30 billion of that money has not been earmarked and could be clawed back in order to create savings. I mean, what comical. I mean, just absolutely comic. $30 billion. I mean, it's just what a ridiculous country.
That's like rolling the drunk that is the USA.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what a ridiculous country.
You're shaking the country by the ankles to see what change falls out of its pockets.
Exactly. Now, here are some stickier points here. New work requirements for Medicaid. The Republican debt limit bill passed by the House in April would require able-bodied adults with no children to work or train in order to stay on Medicaid, the federal health insurance for low-income people. The White House rejected this proposal. I'm not going to accept any work requirements that's going to impact on medical health needs of people, Biden said earlier this month. Well, one health need of people.
That's very qualified answer.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, one health need of people, maybe not medical per se, but is food. And this one changes to current work requirements for food stamps. This one seems to be in the bill that Biden and McCarthy are calling it a good deal. So unlike the Medicaid demands, it appears there could be some room for compromise on GOP proposals to raise the work retirement age, right? So Biden said no to the Medicaid provision, excuse me, but expressed openness to this one. Let me see where I am here. It appears there could be some room for compromise on GOP proposals to raise the work requirement age window for people enrolled in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, from 50 to 55 years old. The same day Biden rejected the Medicaid work requirements, he also noted that he supported work requirements in the 1990s and said it's possible there could be a few others he would support, but not anything of any consequence. So it seems like they are looking at capping SNAP and putting in work requirements for SNAP recipients for people 54 and under with no children. Now, you look at the Medicaid pitch, you look at the food stamp pitch, that provision there, well, we're only going to cap benefits for people with no children. That exposes a certain absurdity of the system, because the reason why they couldn't penalize people with kids is because a lot of times work requirements are impossible to meet if you have children, because guess what? We don't have child care in this country.
Child care, yeah.
So a lot of people are on Medicaid in the first place because they can't make enough money to support their family, because they can't put their kid somewhere 6 hours a day for less than $2,000 a month, at which point everything they earn would just be paying for the child care, and it would make no sense. There's no market sense to any of this. Even if you are a market conservative, even if you are a market capitalist, there is no market incentive for someone with kids to work 40 hours a week for $17 an hour when it costs a couple $1,000s a month to put their kids in a place that allows them to work. So all you're creating in this system, whether you are trying to extract medicine from the government or food stamps, right? What you're telling people, if they have kids, is you have to just endure work to pay for the child care in order for the government to give you access to medicine or food. But there's no actual market incentive for you to work. You're just working for the medicine, for the food, and for the child care that you wouldn't have to work for if we just gave people child care. If you gave people child care, you'd have few people needing Medicaid or food stamps in the first place. If you had free child care, a lot of people wouldn't be in the situation where they needed any of these things. But we do have that. It's just such an absurd system. And this speaks to the failure of the Progressive Caucus for not forcing universal pre-K through the House when they had the chance, because so many of these questions, these two especially, would not be issues to the extent that they are. There would still be an issue in some cases, but these issues would be vastly solved if you had something as simple as universal childcare. And you don't. Even in New York State, you don't. They say we have universal pre-K here. We don't have no fucking universal pre-K here. We have a universal pre-K lottery. I know because I entered it. I entered my kids in it. They have free pre-K, but it's a lottery system. Not means tested even. You know, not, okay, if you're under a certain income level. No. Your name goes into a hat. And if they pick it, you're in luck. You get to send your kid to a sort of daycare for free. If not, you don't have it. If not, that's a huge expense. And whatever work you do is just to cover that nut. So you're talking about food stamps and Medicaid. It's a joke if you don't have, I mean, look, we should have Medicare for all, obviously. So Medicaid should not even be a thing. But child care is the most basic thing. It's the most basic fix. And no.
Some people watch the Hunger Games and they see it as dystopian.
Right.
But I've always seen it as a great example of meritocracy. You know, I mean, the best people from District 13 rise to the top. Okay, so your kids, I don't agree with a lottery system. I think they should have to fight for it or something. You know?
Yeah, at least some. You're right. You're right.
Put them in the woods for a couple days, see if they, whichever kids survive, get pre-K.
This is the worst of everything. It's not need-based or merit-based. It's just luck of the draw.
And it's random. There's no merit involved in winning, right?
No merit, and no means testing, no need-based, no nothing. It's just luck. So even in, liberal New York, where we tout a universal pre-K system, it's not really universal. Universal means universal. Universal means everyone gets it. There's certainly demand for it. Not only do people need places to put their kids during the day, but teachers need work. Right? Daycare professionals need work. Nannies need work. Babysitters need, but there's a huge market for this.
Well, that's why, when you would see the PMCs with such contempt for the people during COVID who wanted the schools back open. Well, you can work from home, motherfucker.
Right, exactly.
These people can't. What is somebody whose job was in a supermarket, which didn't close? It was considered essential. What the fuck were those people supposed to do? They couldn't quit, or they wouldn't get the unemployment, right? They were in a business that didn't close, and the schools were closed. Did you ever spare a moment to I never, ever saw any of these news segments talk about that. I saw them gin up outrage. These people want the schools open. They're so ignorant. These MAGA people. I also heard a lot about white trash partying in the Ozarks. And I'll tell you, I live in Harlem, across the street from St. Nicholas Avenue. They weren't just partying in the Ozarks, but they didn't show any of that. They used this predisposition that they built up among the libs to blame everything that's wrong on this, tribe of red-hatted, racist, ignoramus Trump voters. And they just slap that all on them, all through Schmovit, all through the whole thing. Never did I see them ever discuss, wow, there are poor people who this really puts in a hard spot. All those people were just ignorant.
Well, because you don't have an infrastructure. You need an infrastructure. Even if you're going to have a market-based economy, this is, I don't want to say it's the libertarian fantasy, because we've talked to Larry Sharp last week. I don't know where he stands on this. I don't want to lump all people into a certain ideology, but, you need an infrastructure. Even if you're going to have capitalism, which I don't think you should have, obviously, but you need an infrastructure. You need a system built out for that to exist in. You cannot have an economy with no childcare, with no place for people to put children.
You need some kind of infrastructure to support it. This is what happens when you don't treat capitalism, setting aside whether it's the best economic system or not. It certainly can't function if you treat it not as a tool for the betterment of society and for the running of society. When you treat it as a fundamentalist religion,
right?
This is what you end up with, because religion by its nature is faith-based. It's not rational. The idea that more capitalism is always the solution leads to self-contradictory situations like this. You want people working. You don't want people dependent on the government, but you're setting the playing field in such a way that they can't go to work because you are so ideologically committed to the idea that the government should provide nothing to people. And yet that's why they can't go to work. It's one or the other. You need to make a decision. You need to make a choice of which of these things you value more.
Right. Of course. So here are some core demands from Chip Roy. Chip Roy was one of the Freedom Caucus members who held out and put Kevin McCarthy through, I think it was 15 rounds of votes before naming him Speaker for the GOP. He made some red lines of his known. Repeal the electric vehicle tax credits sent through Biden's renewable energy agenda, which were passed last year in the IRA.
Problem solved.
Yeah. Repeal $80 billion in additional Internal Revenue Service funding, also part of the IRA. Well, I would actually go for that one. Overturn Biden's executive action to forgive approximately $315 billion worth of student loan debt. I'll get to that in a second. The Supreme Court will decide the fate of Biden's plan in the coming weeks and enact the REINS Act, which would require regulatory agencies such as the Federal Trade Commission and the EPA to get congressional approval before they could issue major rules. Now, McCarthy, in an effort to sort of make it look like he's coming through for the Freedom Caucus more than perhaps he is, he touted the student loan payment pause expiration, if you will.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's bullshit they were doing.
Right.
Anyway.
As part of the debt ceiling progress, which is total bullshit, because Biden announced that payment pause was expiring long before they came out and said they had a deal. He's just trying to look for something that he can go to these like real holdouts and say, look, we got this, when really you didn't get that. That wasn't part of the negotiation. And I think most people know that. As for student loan debt forgiveness, well, that's in the court's hands. I mean, there's nothing they could really do about that. Now, that was an executive order to begin with, so I don't know why he thought that they could legislate that out of existence. It wasn't legislated into existence. I guess they can pass a law overriding it, I guess, if they wanted to. But that's almost certain to get struck down. But here, obviously, you have McCarthy trying to win over some of the more sort of right-wing fringe elements of his party by acting as if the student loan payment pause expiration is somehow a win for the Republicans as part of these debt ceiling negotiations, which I don't know how much they will buy that. But as we stand right now, Wednesday is the big day. So by our Thursday show, we should have some big news to talk about one way or another, because that's going to be almost their last chance. I mean, Thursday is Thursday is the 1st of June. And so the expiration is the 5th of June, which would be Monday. So the hour is getting late.
Stock up on your guns.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And canned beans.
Soylent Green.
Yeah.
It's made out of people.
Yeah.
That's going to be us next year.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I would not be against repealing that extra funding for the IRS, because they're not going to put that to any good use.
Yeah, no, that I would give them that one. But I did want to play this, actually, because this is relevant. We're talking about we need to trim $30 billion here. We need to cut the electric car credits. We need to restart student debt payments and things like that. As we're talking about an austerity agenda coming down the pike, which it's going to be one way or the second, it doesn't matter. Obviously, they're going to make significant cuts. There's no way they can't make significant cuts. That's not Biden being, oh, I wish I didn't have to do it. This is the game they play. Joe Biden, Bill Clinton, all these guys, they love to work with Republicans to cut social programs. That's what they love to do. They love being able to do that. They love, losing the midterms, too bad. Oh, that sucks. I guess we're going to have to, we had no choice. Now the Republicans hold the cards. Now we're going to have to cut welfare, right? We're going to have to cut Medicaid. We're going to have to cut food stamps. You're going to have to put work requirements. Yeah.
Because that's what the American people want.
That's what they want. That's what they want.
That's what you would think if you read Newsweek or the New York Times or the Washington Post. Everything is framed that way.
Yeah.
The Democrats went too far, and they went too far left, and they alienated a lot of their voting base, and now they're coming back to the sensible middle. Meanwhile, if you look at polling, neither of these parties is anywhere within sight of the island of median opinion. They're not even in that ocean of what people act. Neither of them.
As we're looking for $5 billion to cut here, $10 billion to cut here, $20 billion to cut here, here's Lindsey Graham in Ukraine this week telling Zelensky that the money we're giving him is the best money we've ever spent.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent.
Thank you so much.
No, it's...
That's the best money we've ever spent. Not money on medicine for our people, food assistance for our poor people, not money on environmental initiatives. No, money we're giving you guys to kill the Russians. That's the best we've ever spent. To issue a quote like that as these negotiations are coming down the pike, as we are literally screaming that we have to cut food stamp benefits. I mean, it's just, like I said, this is what we've been saying for a while. There's no saving this country. There's no turning this around. There's no righting this ship. That an elected official can go to a foreign country and say that the $170 billion we have just given you to accelerate World War III, that's the best money we've ever spent, as the very week we're talking about taking food off our own people's plates and medicine out of our own people's cabinets. If you can get away with saying that, then you don't have a country anymore. You don't have any functioning democratic system anymore. It is gone. The plane is crashing into the mountain. The question is, how do you survive that impact, and can you build something new out of the ruins of that? There is no righting this ship, obviously.
Well, that's why I keep saying that there is this faction of left intellectuals that are way ahead of where the left is in preparing for the world after. Because they are already, I'm talking that whole J.D. Vance crew,
right?
The Steve Bannon crew. They're kind of, Steve Bannon is really the godfather of these new right intellectuals. They're planning for the world after. Like as far as they're concerned, this is just the empire wrapping up, right? Like this is done. So how do we seize the moment? Right. And their solutions are crazy. It's monarchy. You have monarchists. Who knew that there are monarchists?
Right.
I would not have thought that's an idea anyone would seriously consider today. But there's no real equivalent left. Even Shama Sawant isn't that far out. Right. Like this basic idea, this system is done. Our movement is about preparing for what comes after this system and this society. I don't really see any left movements that are out there. Maybe the tankies, kind of, maybe. That's about it.
Right.
Those are the only people on the left I know who are really oriented that way.
Oriented into just, something as different.
We're talking about a post
this
America world. We're not even talking about this.
Right, exactly. All right. I think that's everything we have to say about that. Let's move on to our final segment in just a moment. We have some more super chats that we have to get to here. Just a couple more. Janice Anderson, thank you for the $2. Third election, 5 years, Congress benefits for life. Okay, so third election or 5 years. So you have to win. So you have to win 3 times. I thought you only had to win twice, but that
Well,
is
she's already
good to
there,
know.
right? The 18,
20,
20,
22.
22.
Yeah, so she's there.
So she's
there.
got it.
She's set. She's locked in. Locked in.
That's
Zach says you really Joe Biden to that chat, Keaton. No, I'm sorry about that. Here, I'll read it again. I'll do it justice, okay? It was just a little confusing because there was no comma, but that's all right. I don't mean to nitpick you. I'd ask him if I wanted to, but like the fire that burned down an island where I grew up, it's out of my hands. Plus, I don't want to. Okay, so you don't want to ask him to run for Congress in New York's 14th. See, I'd ask him if I wanted to, comma, but like the fire. See, there was no comma there. That's why.
There's going about as well as the debt negotiations.
Right, exactly.
and let me just say, like, yeah, man, there is definitely a kamikaze, almost Thanatos, death impulse, let's blow the shit up thing going on with the Freedom Caucus. I wouldn't assume just because Biden and McCarthy agreed to something that they're actually going to do it. It seems like there's a strong element of that caucus that wants to default, that just kind of wants to burn the whole thing down and start over. And
because that's what it would take to do a reset.
Cause the turmoils in the market. Let's do it.
I suspect you're right, because I suspect that is what they think is necessary to do the kind of reset that they want.
Right.
Because you're
they
not going to be able
start
to just,
from first principles.
Right. You're not going to be able to peel back little by little by little.
Right.
Right. All right. So here, laugh. Thanks for the $10. The U.S. is getting a bloody nose in Ukraine is viewed as decrepit around the world. Yes, neocon narcissists do not care. We live in dangerous times. Yeah, no, they have their own reality, their own sort of mythology that they create, and it doesn't really matter to them how well or how little it catches on. I think that's a good observation. Thank you for the donation. Kuznetsky Bassin, thank you for the $4.99. I hope I got your name right for $5. It's a cool name. Thank you very much for that donation. We appreciate it, folks. Please, please, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. We have a very big crowd in here, so let's try and get some subs in the house. Let's get us to 10,000 pretty soon. We're getting there. We're at 9,528 subscribers. Let's all make sure we hit that subscribe button, please. Thank you very, very much. We are on to our final segment of the evening. And then, Taya, I do see you in the studio there. If you want to say hello, you can please do that. We're going to do one more segment, and then I will admit you to the call after this segment, if that's cool. But let's do this last one here. The Majority Report did a segment on a Nikki Haley presidential event. Campaign event, which she's probably grateful for any coverage she can get at this point.
Yes.
In which she raised the issue of trans women competing against cis women in sports. All right. Now, Russell put together a little video montage illustrating his take on this, including Emma Vigeland's response to a member chat that came in as they did this segment. So before you play this, Russell, can you just set up what the member was asking and just sort of the context of this bit?
Okay, what the member said was interesting.
Or the viewer. I don't know if they're a paid subscriber or whatever. Whoever was watching, they sent a message into
whoever
the show.
It was that they were reading from. So they said, Emma, you're completely wrong about the science of transgender women competing in sports. There are chromosomal and hormonal differences between men and women. This is what's weird. The person said, you're right that they should compete against women, but basically you're making the wrong argument because you're out of your depth and you're wrong about the science. So this person felt, as actually there's really no disagreement here, because Emma goes off, and I will give her some credit. This is the most honest thing I've seen anyone defending this say. She doesn't give a shit about the science. She actually said, as an institution, women's sports shouldn't exist if fairness is paramount. So I put together a little video dealing with some of the interesting cases of what's happened when biological men compete against biological women or female identified biological men compete against women. Some of the outcomes intercut with some of Miss Vigeland's wisdom.
Really bad on this, and you're out of your depth.
Sorry.
Your argument is really bad on this, and you're out of your depth. You're correct that trans women should be able to compete in women's sports, but your argument for it is just scientifically and factually incorrect. I'm actually not bad about this. I'm 100% right on this. I don't give a shit about the scientific explanations. People, if they identify as a woman, get to compete in sports. If that's not fair in the short term for a variety of little competitions, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit because the societal interests of including trans people in society.
All right, so hold on a second. So for our viewer who thought they offended us with their question earlier because we did that sort of bit where we got angry, this is what a host actually going negative on the crowd. Yeah, like we were just kidding, but that's how you know you've actually triggered them.
I mean, this is somebody who, as many of our people are pointing out, she's never had to work a hard day in her life. This is how you act when you have an incredible amount of privilege, right? You don't have to please anybody. You don't have to. And I'm right, Daddy, you buy me that pony. Give me that pony. That came out here, and she didn't feel like she had to hold it back because she was going to fire her. Right?
Donna, you're out of your element. That we got to add that to the sound drop. Yeah.
All right. So I think we should play this through.
Oh, we will.
It's pretty stunning.
We will. All right. Here, I'll back it up a little bit.
If they identify as a woman, get to compete in sports. If that's not fair in the short term for a variety of little competitions, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit because the societal interests of including trans people in society trumps stupid competition. Full stop. So I'm right about this. You're wrong about this.
Damn.
Anyway, Dr. Shock, I agree. Let's get rid of weight classes in all combat sports. Perhaps have grown man compete in Little League. Sometimes life's not fair. Whatever.
Fox delivering the knees, and that's it. Fallon Fox. Game over.
I'm not here to talk about my transition. I'm here to kick some fucking ass.
I'm feeling excellent. That was sweet, huh? Did you like that? Yeah! And I want to tell everyone else, I'm coming in this tournament. Every woman in this tournament better look out. I'm freaking coming.
I'm gonna roll up the other women here, and I'm gonna smoke them.
The first race that I competed against a transgender athlete was during my freshman year. And once the gun went off, the two transgender athletes took off flying and left all of us girls in the dust.
You're a bad mom if you can't explain that there are people along a gender spectrum and it's not this binary. Like, I mean, I hear this all the time. My daughter plays sports. What am I going to tell to her? You know, it's not fair to her to compete with this kind of person.
November 1st, 2022, I was severely injured in a high school volleyball game by a transgender athlete on the opposing team. I suffered from a concussion and neck injury that to this day I'm still recovering from. Other injuries I still suffer from today include impaired vision, partial paralysis on my right side, constant headaches, as well as anxiety and depression.
Trans women should be able to compete without question in women's sports because there are a lot of instances where there are athletes who, there's not even evidence to show that this is the case, but just take their assertion at face value for a second, that this is some unfair advantage. I mean, there's an unfair advantage all the time in sports. That's actually quite, that's the nature of sports.
The statistics do say
a male could be 40% stronger than a female on his legs.
Biologist Emma Hilton.
Things like shoulder width, those things don't change when transgender women suppress testosterone. They don't get shorter. The performance gap in weightlifting is over 30%. The performance gap when someone is throwing a baseball is over 50%. And the performance gap when a male punches is 160%.
From mediocre to champion. You couldn't cut it with the boys, so you pushed women off the podium. Real man, still first place.
To watch a transgender female ride away from me like it was nothing, and there's nothing I can do about it, it was torture. I really haven't raced since.
I know that I'm not the only girl who has missed out on opportunities. There are countless other girls who have lost meets and titles and their drive to compete as hard as they can because they know that they will never be good enough to compete against these athletes.
Honestly, like women's sports, it's barely an institution. It's only been around for a few decades. Like if our sources of our outlets for entertainment, for competition, for like I don't know however to define them. But if they're not able to accommodate trans people, then they're not worthy of existing. Like it's just like we're talking about movie theaters. What are we talking about here? I mean, I love sports as much as anyone, but if they cannot accommodate including trans people, I don't give a shit about them being robust. It's just, be inclusive or don't be. That's it. Or don't exist.
All right. I mean, there's a lot there. The last thing about movie theaters is just from outer space. What do you mean?
I know. What was that even?
Are you suggesting that if trans women can't compete against cis women in sports, that it follows from that they should also be barred from movie theaters? That's the most ludicrous comparison I've ever heard. The movie theater audiences are not competing in feats of strength against the other members of the audience. Like it's not remotely the same thing. And to the point where, Emma got a lot of negative response from this, and she put out a tweet about this that said, I guess I really triggered the, whatever. I don't know. She called them TERFs or something like that. And she put out this tweet about it, and the tweet got very, very severely ratioed. Here, I'll put it up on the screen right now. I lost it there for a second. This computer, this tech has not been awesome for me tonight, but I'm keeping it in check here. TERFs triggered by me, LOL. It's simple. Trans girls and women are girls and women. Okay, there's the thing. So 2,024 likes to 4,300 comments. That's a pretty steep ratio there. And, Emma Vigeland is not someone who's as on the radar of the right wing. It's not like they're going to go in and all pile on her the way they might like Anna Kasparian or Cenk Uygur, things like that. So what that signals is that this position on this issue is becoming increasingly unpopular, even amongst left of center people, because it's just so transparently and so obviously unfair. And to the extent that this is a culture war issue that does not affect majorities of people, well, sure, it doesn't affect majorities of people, but it does affect the people who it affects. And it's not just a matter of losing a competition. Sometimes, as you saw in the video montage that Russell did there, people get hurt, right? This is why Joe Rogan got in trouble. Because Joe Rogan said, no, you shouldn't let a trans woman beat the shit out of a cis woman in a cage. Because if you put...
And that was the particular case
that was the one, right,
about.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, if you look at the two dudes, all right, put it back up on screen because it's kind of funny. All right, so they say very little through this. Here, put it back up.
What two dudes are you talking about?
With Emma.
Oh, you mean
just the
Matt
video,
Bender
just
and Brandon Sutton? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know what you were talking about.
Okay, so they don't know what the fuck to do. They're like, just when we figured out how to play to Emma's white feminism, now she's kind of anti-woman. What do we say? How do we kiss her ass in this situation? I'm supposed to be pro-woman, but she's saying kind of fuck women. So how do I say that in a way that's complimentary to women, that's going to satisfy Emma? God, I had this white feminist shit down. I had the poor little rich girl thing down. This is a total curveball. What do I say? So what's his name on the left?
Brandon Sutton is on the left.
Yeah. Okay, so Brandon comes up with one of the something as fucking stupid, if not stupider than what she's saying through this whole segment. He has a monologue where he says, well, actually, this is very condescending to women because you're assuming that they're just out there in their little skirts having fun and they're not ready to really compete in a serious way or to really be challenged. So congratulations, man. I mean, that is a tough needle to thread. You came up with an argument so stupid that it actually fit into the segment.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, that is a dumb thing to say. In his defense, as a show person, sometimes you have to riff. Like if it goes there, you got to come up with
that's
something.
What I'm saying. Look at their faces.
Like you
they're
both come
up with
trying
to figure out. They're in an impossible box here because they're like, how do I contribute to this conversation without saying something wrong? Because
Right.
what
She just
she's saying
right.
is so crazy that I can't think of a rational response that might not be taken amiss, because we left rationality 5 exits back on the anti-turf highway here.
And she just exploded on an audience member. So what if I say something? Then we're going to be in a real melee here, a real throwdown.
Right. Look at him on the left. Look at him. He's fucking terrified. He's like, But that's what he ended up coming up with. He ends up coming up with this fucking moronic, like, pro-woman way to frame this. The people who are against this aren't really pro-women, because women, they're ready to fight dudes.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly.
They're ready for, and if you're saying they're not, you're underestimating women.
Right.
You're minimizing women's sport by saying they're not ready to have the shit beat out of them by dudes. Nobody's buying this. And in another section, Matt Leck, who's the producer, you don't see him, he's off screen. He says, well, it's interesting because some of them are trying to have some nuance about it. So Leck says, well, we were having a conversation among ourselves about this, which is already conceding there's a conversation to be had, which is more than Emma is willing to admit. We're having a conversation, but the right wing with their bigotry forced this onto society. But the rest of us, we were fine. We were having a conversation. All right. So we have the polling on this, on how much society was fine with this, until the evil Republicans told them there's something wrong with, like, dudes entering weightlifting competitions as women. Oh, really? It's only 3 in 10 Americans that support trans athletes' participation in female sports. Well, I don't think 7 out of 10 people in America are far right-wing bigots. Do you? I mean, they probably do. But you're presenting this as if it's some kind of a default, rational, reasonable position, which it very well may be among the people you hang with and around people who are terrified to say that they don't agree with this, which, honestly, looking at the expression on their faces as she's going on this rant, I suspect they're closet turfs. I suspect these guys are in the closet. They're just like, I ain't saying shit about this until this blows over. It's going to blow over, right? Right? It's going to blow over.
Well, I think this whole issue is going to blow over soon. So I wanted to put this message on the screen here. It's a distraction while they prepare to enslave the population. You all can't see that? No, I can't see that.
Yes.
And I think, I honestly believe we're almost through it, at least this part of it, the sports thing, because I believe, and I'm not certain of this, but I believe it's fewer than 3 in 10 believe in, the sports issue as Emma's framing it now.
I heard it was 90%
and so
against.
I think it's 85 to 90 now. Well, that was taken in 2022. So, this has gotten a lot of this issue's been hashed out a lot since then. So, look, I think this is almost through, but I think it is important to sort of settle this so that, you can move past it. Like here on the show, we try to, as a rule, Russ and I actually talked about this week, maximum 1 culture war segment per week, because we do want to talk about Ukraine and the debt ceiling and, protests and Israel and foreign policy, like all that other stuff.
That's why we didn't do Anna's Karen segment.
Right. We didn't do Anna's Karen thing because we didn't want 2 culture war things, because all of that is much more important than this. But this is holding a real left movement back in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think that this particular battle is almost over. I actually do think that, because the polling it started out 3 in 10. Now it's fewer than that. And that's what makes this so bizarre. And that's why Emma got ratioed so hard. She's getting ratioed not by right-wingers. Right-wingers don't follow her in great enough numbers to be, triggered enough to troll her on that. She's getting pushback because this is now not a popular position on the left even.
Well, especially, and again, God bless her. She made the underlying position plain in a way that you have to be a rich girl with no sense of self-preservation to make it plain. She doesn't feel like she has to protect herself no matter what she does. She's got a nice big fat trust fund to fall back on so she can say what she actually thinks. Fuck women's sports. She literally is making the argument that if women's sports are going to be destroyed by the inclusion of trans people, then women's sports should not exist, and goes on to say, well, it's only been around for a few decades. I mean, well, you've only been around for a few decades, Emma. Why don't, I mean, that's an argument. Hey, the Supreme Court, when they struck down provisions in the Civil Rights Act, I mean, that's only been around a few decades.
Right.
What's the big,
I mean, why shouldn't a trans person
deal?
take her place on the show? She should give her role up.
Yeah, why don't you give up your place on the show?
Let somebody co-host the show. And
not
only does she
I don't see, in this triumvirate talking about trans issues, I don't see a single trans person. Why you get rid of Bender?
Right. Why isn't there a trans person on the panel? This is what we talked to Buck Angel about. A lot of trans people themselves are not represented in these conversations because a lot of these opinions, these are the white savior issues, right? These are the issues for non-trans people to virtue signal their quote-unquote allyship. And, there's not actually, a trans person represented in that conversation. And that is the norm. That is the rule in these conversations, not the exception. The other thing that's remarkable about this is that she is, as she said, a huge sports fan herself. She actually has a sports podcast, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network. So if you have a sports show, which she does, and she's done a lot of episodes, she's had it for a long time, how could the issue of fairness in sports not matter to you? Like, how? Like, that would be like if you work for ESPN and you don't think that, like, the steroid scandal of the late 90s was a big deal. Oh, who cares, right?
Sports.
Whatever, right? Not a big deal. Yeah, they should be able to juice up. Yeah, so they hit the ball farther once they get the steroids. Why not? Yeah, it's unfair, but sports is unfair, right?
Well, yes, you're a sports fan, and you're arguing that the societal good of trans people being able to play sports outweighs sports being valid in terms of them being competitive. And if that destroys female sports, so be it. Okay, so let's unpack that. Why do you feel it's self-evident that the societal good of allowing trans people to compete against women, biological men who identify as women to compete against women, why do you feel that that is a greater societal good than women who fought for, as I showed in my montage, not decades, centuries, to actually be in the position they are now, where they have their own leagues, where they have their own competitions? Why do you feel that it is a greater societal good than them being able to have their own sports and to have a lot of the awards and prizes that come with that had exclusively before belonged to men? The scholarships, the cash prizes, the awards, the endorsements, everything that comes with that is taken away from them if you destroy their sport by allowing it to be overrun by biological men. Why are you arguing that doing that to potentially half the population is a great societal good when you're talking about doing something that's not even going to benefit 0.06% of the population, because most trans people are not actually going to sign up and play in these sports teams? So who are you talking about? How many people are you benefiting that's worth destroying women's sports as an institution? Because that's exactly what will happen, because who wants to watch a sport where the winner is meaningless, where it's not competitive? Nobody wants to watch that. If you keep doing this, yes, it's going to be the end of women's sports. You know what it won't be the end of? Men's sports. What kind of a fucking feminism is that? What kind of a feminism is that? Yeah, well, fuck it. Women's sports are relatively new. Men's sports have been around longer. Just leave it to the men. Just let the men have it. You call that feminism? That's feminism?
Well, that's what I say. I mean, you don't hear the word feminism too much on the left anymore, right? During the 2016 campaign, that's all we heard on the left was feminism, not only, among liberals, right? I mean, feminism was a big issue back then. You don't really hear much about that now. I mean, you really hardly ever hear about it. You don't hear about misogyny anymore. You don't hear about sexism anymore. You don't really hear about that. Why?
Well, you know what, man? There's some.
Sorry, there's Tucker got in my head. Why don't we hear about that anymore?
There's someone we mutually
used to
who, when they're not posting stuff about trans rights being workers' rights, they're posting, comparisons of women's genitals to rolled up cold cuts and things like that. And I look at that and I say, yeah, man, those are the guys who really like this shit because they want to fucking abuse women. It gives them a way to force women to accept men in spaces where they don't want them. I believe there's a strong element of misogyny in this movement.
Well, that's what Buck Angel said, and yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. And the reason
I mean, with Emma, I think she's just a fucking moron. Who, if she had been around in the Victorian era, she would have been screaming the loudest about sexual propriety, right? She's just that kind of a fucking airhead. This is the way to virtue signal now, so she's gonna virtue signal the loudest and go the furthest.
But the reason I say that there is a misogynist streak to this is because I thought of this like, okay, once you get the hormone therapy, once you get to a point where you may look more like a woman than a man, but you still have the muscle mass and the bone density of a man, and you might be better to compete in the men's category. What would be the problem with having them compete with biological men? Like when I was in Little League, there were some girls, a couple of girls who were good enough players where they didn't play softball, they played with the boys. And we all dealt with it. We had to deal with it because that's called being tolerant. That's called being accepting, right? So why can't the men be asked to afford that tolerance to a trans woman? In other words, if a trans woman still plays at the level of a biological male, why couldn't that trans woman play on the male team and have the men say, yeah, this person may look like a woman to you, they identify as a woman, but they belong in your class of athlete because they can compete on your level. Men aren't being asked to tolerate that level of discomfort that some of them might feel, because there are a lot of men who might feel uncomfortable about sharing a locker room with someone who identifies as a woman. They're not asked to make that sacrifice. The women are asked to make the sacrifice of losing to biological men who identify as women.
I wasn't sure I was going to pull this up. Okay, so let's take a look at the cyclist in Toronto, because this is what a lot of people are saying. Hey, straight up, a lot of these motherfuckers literally want to win. They want to win. It's actually, for a lot of them, it's not about expressing themselves as a woman, because the solution is to have an open category, right? But here we had a cyclist up in Canada where there was an open category, and the cyclist decided instead to compete against the women. Do we have that?
Yeah, hold on. I'm sorry. I just had to put one of you guys in the timeout box for a few minutes. Don, you're a good guy, Don. We love you, Don. Appreciate that. But one of those comments back there, you can't say stuff like that. All right, we're not going to block you. We're not going to ban you, because I don't know what you meant by it, or if you meant by it, but that kind of stuff we just can't have. All right, that's, like I said, not banning you, not a permanent thing. We got take a few minutes.
We get another Nazi in here.
Well, no. I'll talk to you about it later. It's fine, right. Don. You're good, but you have to cool it with that. Like, we can't. That's not a cool thing to talk like. All right. All right. Anyway, sorry, Russell. I was just preoccupied with that for a second. What would you like here?
Cyclist up in Canada. Cyclist posed alone on the podium.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Intern.
No.
Intern.
I got distracted for a minute. I had to deal with something.
I understand.
All right. Here we go. All right.
Okay. So this was a case where the person could have competed in an open category, and finally, you actually had a little rebellion. Scroll down. All right. So the women refused to pose on the podium. Riley Gaines, who we did a feature on when she got attacked after giving a speech. She's been arguing that women need to have these kinds of protests now to shut this down. They need to start, and it's hard for these women. A lot of them, they've trained their whole lives, and even getting a second or a third place can give them an opportunity for a scholarship or a prize. Riley Gaines is arguing they need to start to mount this kind of an opposition, and even they need to start to refuse to compete against men. Now, I'm sorry. This person, you can't even say, well, there was no way for them to compete otherwise. Yes, there was. Yes, there was. There was an open category, and they chose to compete against the women. And then had
there was a non-binary category. Yep.
There was a non-binary category. That's brave. That's brave and inspired. No, that's a fucking asshole. I am sorry. That is a fucking asshole. You knew that you had an advantage over those women. And you have the fucking balls when nobody maybe not literally, we don't know. But you stand up on that podium and you say, I know there were other, this is what they said. I know there were other women in my category. I don't know why there's nobody here. Well, there's nobody here because you fucking cheated them. You cheated them. You know what they won by? 17 minutes against the women in that category. 17 fucking minutes. So what Anna was saying there, Riley Gaines actually talked about that in the segment we did on her. Talking about, well, there's always inequality in sports, and they'll bring up Michael Phelps. And Riley Gaines was pointing out, okay, so between the top man and the top woman in a sport, usually you'll have about a 12% difference. It's not close to that between the first and second ranked woman in a competition, or the first and second ranked man in a competition. You don't have a 12-point spread like that. You don't get blown out by 17 minutes like that with the next best woman. So I'm sorry, man. This wasn't even a case where there wasn't another category to race in. You're supposed to go, oh, that's stunning and brave. No, that's a fucking cheat. That's a fucking asshole. And people recognize that. And that's why this is not sustainable. And I think that's part of why these two guys didn't say anything. I mean, the one on the left, he spoke up a little bit after much effort to figure out what he could say that would be in the lane. You know, that this is going on for like a half an hour before he comes up with something. Yeah, but in the end, I think, as you say, this is on the way out. This is not going to age well for anyone who's going on the record defending.
No, and I think more and more people are sort of, catching on to that, which is why, hopefully this is one of the final segments we have to do on this. And like I said, we try to cover this as sparingly as we can. There are channels who devote their whole shows to this, and they make fucking bank doing it.
Oh,
so
they
we could if we wanted to.
They make a fortune.
Yeah, but we don't want to. Exactly.
Fucking Matt Walsh, when they kicked him off, he was making $450,000 a month when they demonetized him.
Yeah, I'm talking about there are even shows that are not necessarily right-wing shows, even just shows that just tackle this a lot more.
Yeah.
Even from like a center-left point of view.
Look, you got certain shows that basically the entire show is them dropping multiple videos a day about woke people going crazy about a Disney movie.
Right, exactly.
Woke people going crazy about Elon Musk, and woke people going crazy about a trans issue. And that's it. That's their whole channel. It's basically Disney, woke people, and trans people. And Dylan Mulvaney is like a cottage industry unto themselves.
Right. Yeah, indeed. So we could go there if we wanted to. We don't want to, so we don't. But that was worth doing. All right, we have a couple of Patreon callers who are on the line, Stanislav and Taya.
That's the channel we're going to put under the DueDissidence network.
Exactly.
I'm just going to watch TikTok all day and comment.
If you guys want to say hello, you can unmute your mic right now if you'd like to do that, and we will let you in for a little while as we get ready to wrap the show up. But we got some time.
I mean, that is one way to get all the bears.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Get all the people who are into that, because
yeah.
I've never seen Keith without a shirt, but I bet he's a hairy Jew like me.
I'm a hairy bastard. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
say
I know. I figured. We're all like that.
I got very unlucky with my genetics because I am half Maltese, so I am Mediterranean. Malta's an island in the Mediterranean Sea, like 60 miles off the coast of Sicily, 90 miles from like Libya, about 150 miles from Greece. So it's right there. But then I'm also I'm a quarter German, and I thought I was a quarter Russian, but actually I learned, because of World War III, I learned that my ancestors, who I thought were Russian, were actually in territory that's now Ukraine. So I'm now Ukrainian, which I think affords me a lot of license. So I'm very happy to find out that
now you can say whatever you want.
Right now I can say what I want. But I got very unlucky because I have the pale skin of the sort of German Ukrainian people, but all the hairiness and sweatiness of the Mediterranean. Like, I thought if I'm going to be a hairy, sweaty Mediterranean, I should at least be able to get a tan. But no, I'm as pale as the Germans and as sweaty as the Maltese. And so I really drew the short stick there. Stanislav, we have not met
You're
you
basically
yet.
an evolutionary failure.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
You're an
too well,
evolutionary dead end.
Hey, I did all right, all things considered. Stanislav, you're on the air. What's up? Good to meet you. I don't think we've met you before.
Likewise. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm going to admit Taya, too, so we get a little party going in here. Taya, nice to see you as always.
Hi, guys.
What's up?
Yeah, I mean, now that we're done with talking about women, we don't like to talk about women with women.
yeah.
As a rule.
A lot of thoughts there.
we feel we've got a handle on the issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stanislav, what's up?
Though?
What's
sorry,
yeah,
go
sure.
ahead.
No, go ahead, Taya. You can go ahead.
I was going to say that I'm actually quite impressed by Emma's honesty for once, which is that she just said she doesn't care. I think that a lot of people for a lot of years have that they're sort of wrap it in arguments. They wrap it in all this like what socialism means to me, undergraduate shit, right? But now she's just said, I don't care.
Trans rights are workers'
I don't
rights.
care about evidence. I don't care about women's concerns. I don't care. That's really an honest. That's actually the honest answer, and kudos to her for being honest.
Trans people can't compete. We should just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah.
No, that's what I said.
Like that
hey,
honesty.
that is the most honest thing I've ever heard anyone
It's been a long time.
say on this subject. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
She didn't get into the if you give them estrogen, they're fine. It just they shrink 3 feet, they're fine. They should. Their lung capacity, none of that matters.
Doesn't matter.
None of it matters. Hand size, none of that matters. She didn't get into any of that. She was just like, women's sports haven't been around long enough to care about. So if trans people can't play, fuck them.
Hundreds of years of fighting, that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. No. Yeah. But what I find just very
that one was just weird. That one was just weird at the end where she starts.
Yeah, that's
and then she did that shit with movie theaters. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it's
but one of the big, when you've been across this for many years, there's another cyclist from Canada called Veronica Ivy who went way back. This is like 2018. This has been going on for years and years and years, right? But the one of the reasons that it has been, I think, the feminist concern is this gaslighting around the fact that this is not a legitimate radical feminist point of view analysis that fits firmly within left-wing analysis. To just turn around and say everything is right-wing. So that's what I'm saying. I like the fact that we've got a reset and we can go, you know what? No, you're wrong. You don't care. That's okay. Stay out of it. The grown-ups are talking, right? So I like that. So
no, that's a good point.
I just wanted to say that part.
No, that's great. Stanislav, did you have anything to say? I don't think you've called in before, have you?
No, this is my first time. I was actually going to ask you guys a question about the previous segment, but
of course.
But this current segment actually just piqued my interest. I actually think that once able-bodied athletes start insisting on competing in the Paralympics, this is going to probably. If it happens, it won't. But if it did happen,
I know you're being facetious, but that makes a point. Sure, of course. Of course. I mean, look, the reality. I mean, look.
Can I do that? Because I've never meddled. It would be nice.
Yeah,
it's probably the only way at this point in my life.
I mean, not to say the women are like they're handicapped.
No, I understand what you mean.
I do want to actually ask you guys.
That's a tough point to attempt as a first-time caller.
That is true.
That's a tough tightrope to try and walk for your first public comment ever. I was like, we've been doing this for 4 years. That's why we feel a little more confident.
I'm an able-bodied man who wants to play
the
Paralympics.
But anyway, what was the other point about the debt ceiling?
Yeah, the other point was about the debt ceiling, and you guys played that clip of Lindsey Graham in Kiev. So I know this
he says that's the best money America ever spent, but he didn't want to talk about the best money he ever spent because I think that involved two gentlemen and a billy goat.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have nothing but respect for the man. I mean, he's a right gentleman.
Right, exactly. Yes.
But I do want to point out that when he was saying that the best money the United States ever spent was killing Russians. It's interesting because oftentimes you hear you guys do it, other people do it, I do it sometimes, where we talk about all these wars, all these criminal wars the United States wages around the world, and we say, wouldn't it be better if we spent that money on public needs in the United States? And that kind of poses the question: if we had enough money for both, would that be okay? Because it seems like as long as it's a zero sum, it's like, well, we need that money here. We can't just be killing foreigners around the world. I mean,
sure. No, I understand what you're saying. Yes. I mean, a lot of the right-wing opposition to Ukraine is based on that nationalist sentiment, which is we want what's ours. We don't want to be investing it anywhere else, no matter the aim. And I think it's a good question. I mean, I think a lot of them might think that, yeah, maybe if we could afford to do it, we should, but we can't, so we shouldn't. You are sort of appealing to a certain nationalism in people by making that argument and framing it that way, but they are making an anti-war argument either way. Does that kind of answer what you're saying? Like, yeah, no, I take your point, and that there's not a lot of moral clarity about the virtue or lack thereof of the endeavor itself. It's more just, well, we need that money here, right? So when someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about, well, we shouldn't be giving money to Ukraine, she's not necessarily saying it's wrong to stoke World War III on the merits. She's just saying we can't afford to. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
What you're asking? Yeah.
I think in this segment, particularly with the Graham clip. I mean, this guy is a genocidal freak.
Oh, he's a good horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like looking at it and thinking, well, man, our priorities as a country is way up.
But great casting for a Tennessee Williams play.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. Oh yeah, can't get any better than that.
No question. But yeah, just to wrap it up, I think that when people say things like this, like what he said, obviously he's very honest, because other people mostly on the Democratic side who are a lot more proper, they would never be caught dead saying something like this, although their ideologies are pretty much in lockstep. But it's kind of like Trump saying we're there for the oil, we're there to steal the oil. You're not supposed to say that. That's kind of out of class. But the overarching point here is that to look at that and say, man, our priorities are really distorted. He's saying, oh, we spent all that money on Ukraine. Man, we have so many homeless people in the United States. This is like, there are human beings dying due to the money being spent. If you go on Telegram, there are quite a few channels where you see clips of people in the Donbass picking up fragments of munitions that say made in Ohio. And these people are getting snuffed out on the streets on a daily basis. So for them to hear, man, sorry for spending all that money on all these bombs. We really need it for Medicare for all here. It's just
No, I understand. No, that's a very good point. I think you're touching on something that we've touched on before. What our friend Anis Shivani has written about and talked about is like to to organize for these domestic priorities that we feel are very important for our people, while at the same time not addressing not only the moral contradiction but the practical sort of incompatibility of maintaining a brutal empire around the world that's not only morally at odds with itself, but it can't practically happen. Like that. Yeah. That's why we played that Lindsey Graham clip in context of the debt ceiling talks. Like, of course they're going to implement austerity here. Look at the priorities of your ruling elites here. Look at the priorities of the people who wield political power here. They literally go to another country and say, the money we've spent helping you fend off the Russians is the best money we've ever spent. We're literally going to take food off our own people's tables here while we're sending tens of billions of dollars out the door to you. And I'm here to tell you on camera, this is the best investment we ever made. Yeah. Not in our people, in Ukraine.
Yeah, to an American viewer, that looks like, hey, that's our money. But to a Russian viewer, it looks like this guy wants to destroy our
sure.
Our entire...
Well, I mean, the moment where he says best money ever spent in the context of dead Russia, I mean, that definitely plays as very psychopathic.
Right. But even if you like detach it from the like he's talking about, yes, Russians are dying and it's the best money we've ever spent. What he means is, and look, maybe he does mean it in that bloodthirsty way, but the way I take it is that is perfectly in line with even most Republicans at this point, which are, yeah, of course we'd rather spend $170 billion on Ukraine than like not cut food stamps by $5 billion to save a few coins here, right? Like that is still the mainstream position in his party. Yes, you have these Freedom Caucus types who are sort of very sort of anti-interventionist for reasons that you talked about earlier. But I think, most GOPers are still pro-Ukraine in that very aggressive way where they're like, yeah, of course we'd rather invest $1 trillion there if we have to, if the war goes on long enough. We will, out of one side of our mouth, advocate for continual, unconditional investment in Ukraine, while at the same time nickel and diming our own people out of Medicaid and food stamps and things like that. Yeah. All righty. Well, thank you guys so much for calling in. Stanislav, where are you from?
Ukraine.
Do you live in Ukraine?
Yeah, no, I live in the States.
But you're okay.
I came here years ago, but I am from Ukraine. Yeah, I'm one of the few Ukrainians who's actually pro-Russian, as far as the people you come across, probably. I mean, I'm sure there are quite a few of them, but the ones that I come across.
So are you from the east, where?
Yeah, I'm not from
Donbass.
I'm not from Donbass, just west of there.
Just west of there.
All right, so you're part of that population of Ukrainians that align with Russia?
Well, see, that's the thing. The identifying these people as Ukrainians that's kind of a misnomer too, because these people, for the most part, they're ethnically Russian. In fact, a lot of these genocidal fuckers in Kiev, they're also ethnically Russian. They have Russian last names. Okay, it's just that they have. I'm not even sure what to go. It's some sort of like they're just going through some kind of a national psychosis, where they look to all these Nazi collaborators from the 1930s and 40s, and they think that these are essentially the icons of our people. But the fact is, Ukraine as a country is a total, just like it's a patchwork of regions, Russia essentially cobbled together to make up what is now modern day Ukraine.
Yeah, that's why I thought I was Russian until 4 or 5 months ago. Honestly, I've always said I'm a quarter Russian. Turns out I'm actually technically a quarter Ukrainian.
If you look at a map from the 19th century, the late 19th century, all these lands up to Western Ukraine, they're all Russian. It's all native Russian lands, and even in Western Ukraine is native Polish land. So yes, there is an ethnicity of Ukrainian. Yes, in fact, Ukrainians are the second largest ethnic group in the Russian Federation, but the people within modern day Ukraine, the Ukrainian state. I mean, this is like some kind of like, I mean, these people are like rabid dogs, I mean, I used to travel to Ukraine every 2 years. I've been here for several decades. I used to travel to Ukraine every couple of years. The country is just, they have flipped the switch. I don't recognize it anymore. They started renaming parks, schools, street names after Nazi collaborators. I mean, Bandera is only one of many, and they've just literally it's like they took a time machine back to the 1940s. I mean, it's a scary place. So yeah, whenever I talk to people from there, I try not to avoid the topic because I know where they stand. You can usually tell.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you're a
That
great
is
caller.
interesting.
Where in the States are you from?
I live in Baltimore.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
It's a lot like Eastern Ukraine, right? A lot of bombing and gunshots and that kind of thing.
I don't live in that part of the town, but yeah, it's a war zone in several parts of Baltimore. But I'm sort of dodging the bullets where I live. So yeah,
it's like the Wire.
It's like The Wire without the shitty dialogue and the really.
You didn't like The Wire?
Like The Wire.
Fighting words. So you can say definitively that the Azov Battalion are not actually Eastern mystics. The swastika is a Nazi symbol for them.
No,
I heard they were just really into Tibetan mysticism.
Well, you're more right than you realize, because obviously all of this goes back to Aryan purity, and of course who are Aryans? People from modern day Iran, Kurdistan. Yep. Those are the Aryans. So they are mystics in a way.
I was told, I was just in India in February, and I was told by my guide that there is a section of India where the people are like blue-eyed and blonde. I
don't know about blonde, but definitely blue-eyed, green-eyed too. Yeah, absolutely. Those are Aryans. That's
what he said. He claimed that those were the original Aryans there.
All right, guys, we're going to take some super chats and get out of here, but thank you so much for calling in.
Before we get in trouble.
Thank you, Stanislav. Great to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you.
Taya, did you have any final word before? Anything else?
No, I was just sitting here awkwardly. I didn't know whether I was just going to leave. I was like, I have nothing to add. Thanks, guys.
You're
I just
like,
wanted to go.
you're like, I'm on the
Emma,
trans beat, not
Great to
the
see
Ukraine
you. Right?
beat.
Yeah, exactly. All righty, everybody. Oh, we got another caller here. Winnetou Livre. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
What's up?
Yes. I wasn't going to call in this evening, but a few minutes ago, I, on a whim, decided, why don't I ask ChatGPT to outline a Tennessee Williams play about Lindsey Graham?
It's a great idea.
That's an interesting one.
It's not the greatest result, put it that way. Although it does touch on themes that you would not think something as neutral as ChatGPT would want to deal in.
Well, I mean, he's your classic closeted gay Tennessee Williams character.
Yes, and it's all very melodramatic, and I don't think it's very Tennessee Williams ultimately. I think AI has a long way to go. That's really what I called it.
I mean, did you see that
Tennessee
thing?
Williams is a great writer. I mean, it's hard to live up to Tennessee Williams.
It's hard to do a Tennessee Williams thing. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, did you see Nathan Robinson? He spread around this story, had ChatGPT write of Batman versus Karl Marx. That honestly, that was better than what you would get if you gave that prompt to like 95% of the people in a creative writing class. Like, it wasn't the best thing I ever read, but it wasn't bad. It was all right.
Send us some highlights from that play. Yeah.
Well, I could read you the outline, but I don't think you would want that. I think you guys want to get out of here. But
we still got to clean the grill.
Yeah, exactly.
Nathan Robinson sort of looks like a Tennessee Williams. I mean, come on.
He does.
He does.
He's our favorite Popin'
J. Yes, exactly. Popin' J. Good word. Good word. All right, gentlemen.
We keep saying we're going to bring him on to debate him, but the moment passed. He hasn't written anything crazy about.
He's been a little sick. I think he had something. He had a problem of some kind, which obviously we wish him all the best on that. But I think he's been think he's been in the hospital. He had some like
has he really?
degenerative muscular thing going on.
Really?
I think he's okay. Yeah, but yeah, he's been out of commission.
I didn't know that.
I think so. All righty. Well, thank you, Winnetou Livre. Appreciate it.
I bid you adieu.
All righty. Thank you.
Gracias, amigo.
Gracias, amigo. All right. Let's take some super chats before we wrap up. By the way, folks, you can go to patreon.com and support this program. You get access to patron exclusive live streams like the one we streamed last week on Tuesday. That was a lot of fun. We're going to be doing 2 of those a month moving forward, so that'll be great. You get exclusive live streams just for the patrons and the members, and then you also get call-in access to these shows, which Taya and Stanislav and Winnetou Livre just put in there. So you can do that, and please, if you can, help support the show. You can also become a YouTube member by clicking join. We added a couple members tonight, which is fantastic. So thank you guys for signing up. Let's hear some super chats before we leave. And by the way, folks, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. That really is a big help. Katie Nick, there's big money behind the trans community. I don't think it's going anywhere soon. Who is behind the transgender rumble with Jennifer Bilek? Look, when I say it's not going anywhere soon, I think the sports question. Right.
Yeah, he's talking about that.
I'm talking about the sports question.
I agree. It's just too crazy, and it impacts too many people for it to not collapse under its own weight. Like, these parents are not going to let this continue with their daughters not able to compete, and then you got
a trans with a Schmendrick swinging it in a girl's bathroom.
You got that going on. It's
Yeah, so that's what I meant.
That's just not sustainable.
I think that argument is almost over. In terms of the broader issue, no, look, I mean, I'm for trans rights. We've said that over and over again. We had Buck Angel on the show. He's for trans rights, too. I'm even for what Emma said in that segment. She says, I think everybody, whether they're cis or trans or non-identifying, whatever, should be able to enjoy all of the joys of life that everyone else enjoys, including sports. Like, I think trans people should be able to compete in sports, either have a non-binary category or figure out ways to maybe, if they are more fit to compete against biological males, then do it that way and have the men have to tolerate that presence, right?
You find a way to accommodate them that doesn't destroy opportunities for half the human race.
For women, right, exactly. Hobbs 45, thank you. The Celtics will play the Heat in Game 7 on Monday. This is a must-win game. Well, yeah, Game 7s are always must-win. From what I heard, that was a real barn burner. Was it last night? They won 104-103. So that's a great game. It's a great basketball game. So yeah, Game 7s are always fun. Who did this? Sports are rooted in white supremacy. Is that a joke you put up?
Yeah. So I hope you're kidding, man. You know, when I see things like that, man,
I think he's probably kidding.
It's so grad school. Yeah, no, I mean, he's one of our folks. He has to be kidding. But you do have people who seriously will say sports are white supremacy. It's like, well, did you ever hear of the Aztecs?
Right.
They were pretty into sports. They weren't white.
Tom Stratton.
Questionable whether the Greeks are even white, really.
But it's not our money. It's our debt. It's too late in the evening to litigate that one. But it's our debt. Thank you, Tom. You're talking about the Ukraine issue. Should Emma be allowed to compete in the Special Olympics? That was the joke that Stanislav made. A joke. Thank you. All right, Don is back. Thank you, Don. We're all good, Don. You know what I'm talking about, Don. But thank you for not taking it personally. And like I said, I wasn't too hard. I know some people said don't be hard on Don. I wasn't hard on Don. I gave him 5 minutes. Give him a little timeout, which I thought was appropriate. But thanks for coming back, and it is behind us. Long story short, thanks for the $2. Russ, do you think Ron DeSantis? Oh, God.
That might be part of how he won Miami-Dade.
Yeah,
they might have had him there turning on the lights, doing the cooking, making a little cholent.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Maybe. That was another classic Michael Savage call where a guy called in trying to get him to try cholent. The guy came in and tried to convince.
Why? Yeah. Michael Savage had never had cholent. He's Jewish, isn't he?
Yeah, but he is. He is, but I don't think he ever had it. So a guy called to complain about that. That was a funny one. All right, everybody. Well, that was a great show. We got still 574 strong here hanging out with us. Thank you guys so much. This was a great crowd. You were terrific. Well, thank you for tuning in. Please hit that subscribe button on the way out if you are not already subscribed. Please sign up, DueDissidence.substack.com. It won't hit you up for money again, but you could sign up at our Substack for free. This way you get alerts whenever we are about to go live. You also get the article drops that we put out. You also get alerts when we put these streams out on an audio podcast. So if you missed the show on YouTube and you want to listen in the car on the audio feed or whatever, you can do that. Go to DueDissidence.substack.com to sign up for free or as a paid subscriber. You can go to patreon.com/DueDissidence to help keep the show going and join here at YouTube to get certain perks that you'll see when you go and sign up. Hit that join button. But in any event, please hit that subscribe button on the way out. Very, very important. And hit that like button so other people get to take a look at this stream. I want to thank you folks very, very much for being here this evening. It was a great crowd. It was a great time. Have a wonderful Memorial Day holiday tomorrow. Enjoy the day off. Hit the grill, hit the pool, do whatever you got to do. And we will be back here on Thursday, June 1st. It will be June already. The year is flying by when we see you all again. Oh, yeah, I should get a couple of plugs in. I will be on the Thomas Salisbury live stream. I think he live streams on Facebook. That will be on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. And then Russell and I will be on the Larry Sharp Show Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Called The Sharp Way. Larry Sharp obviously ran for governor of New York as a libertarian in 2018, 2022. We had a great time interviewing him on our show on Thursday. We will be guesting on his show this Wednesday at 7 p.m. So if you tune in to any of those shows, we'll see you before Thursday. If not, we'll see you back here on this channel Thursday night, 8 p.m. Thanks very much for being here, everybody. We appreciate you all very much. Have a great evening. Be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.